Our story kicks off in a world shrouded in mystery, where a young man finds himself surrounded by warriors wielding cold steel and wearing garments from a forgotten era. At first glance, the whole scene feels strangely nostalgic. As he takes it all in, a weird sense of familiarity washes over him, like he's been here before. But before he can sink deeper into his thoughts, a guild clerk calls out to him, cutting through the silence. She looks at the young man, Julian Vance, and asks if he's actually here to register as a fledgling adventurer. Without missing a beat, Julian says yes. He can still feel that uncanny breeze, the feeling of knowing exactly where he is and who these people are. The paperwork is finished in the blink of an eye. And then, boom, a shimmering blue magic screen snaps into existence right in front of his face. It startles him for a split second, but then that overwhelming déjà vu hits him again, harder than before. He stands there, staring at the palm of his hand like a complete weirdo. The clerk looks at him like he's lost his mind, but inside Julian's head, memories of a past life are flooding back, making everything crystal clear. This was the epic world of 7 Crowns, the legendary game he used to grind in his past life, where the ultimate goal was to conquer the 7 seas and bring peace to the realm. But wait, something still wasn't adding up. In this life, Julian Vance was supposed to be just a regular guy, a nobody dreaming of becoming a knight just to put food on his family's table. Yet here he was, reborn inside his favorite universe. In an instant, his look of confusion transforms into pure, unadulterated confidence. The clerk, now genuinely creeped out by the guy making faces in front of her, asks if he's feeling all right. Julian just shoots her a look of peak arrogance and tells her not to sweat it. He claims it's just the burning passion of a warrior, but honestly, he just looks like a total lunatic to her. Julian starts scanning the system screen, trying to figure out how the hell his consciousness kept all those past life memories. He can't find a logical answer, so he just decides to roll with it. Why complain? He's going to use every cheat he knows to dominate this world. With a polite, slightly worried smile, the clerk wishes him luck as he steps through a shimmering portal. On the other side, he comes face to face with a massive, glowing structure that would take anyone's breath away, the altar of anointing. Julian is stunned. It's a pixel-perfect match to the game. Within seconds, he realizes he's not alone. 4 other rookies are standing there with him, ready for the game's tutorial stage. Everything is identical to the game, except for one terrifying detail. If he loses here, there's no respawn. This is one life, and one life only. But that's not enough to shake him. Why? Because this kid has the entire world's walkthrough burned into his brain. At that exact moment, a booming announcement echoes through the hall. The challenge is live. The first task, choose your gear. Julian is hyped, while one of the other candidates sprints ahead like a maniac to grab the flashiest weapon. Julian scans the room. It's your classic medieval spread: longbows, broadswords, heavy spears, and rapiers. The spear is clearly the heavy hitter here, boasting a solid 21 base attack power. 2 of the guys immediately start screaming at each other over who gets the spear, while another pair literally starts throwing hands over a sword with 19 attack. It's chaos, but Julian expected this. According to the lore, your performance here at the altar determines your entire career path in the kingdom. It's a brutal system for beginners. If you don't perform like a god right now, you're stuck with a trash-tier job forever. Our hero even remembers his past life, where he'd reset his save file dozens of times just to get a perfect result on this very stage. As the others finish picking their gear, one of them notices Julian hasn't moved a muscle. Julian couldn't care less about the guy's opinion, which, predictably, makes the bald dude absolutely furious. Julian just strolls through the selection area, hands casually in his pockets, passing by all the high-tier weapons until he stops. He's standing in front of a tiny, pathetic common blade. Unlike the others, this thing only has 1 attack power. This discount Saitama starts running his mouth again, telling Julian he's going to end up as a peasant and blah, blah, blah. But Julian isn't even listening to this medieval Vin Diesel. he's already 10 steps ahead. The knowledge of a commoner means nothing compared to the pro-level strategy guide Julian has locked in his head. And then he does it. He makes his choice, picking up the rusty war sword for the tutorial. With the gear selected, the 5-minute tutorial countdown finally begins. Swarms of insects start crawling out of the shadows. The goal? Kill as many as you can. Every adventurer drops into a combat stance, ready for blood. Julian recognizes them instantly, the winged centipede. They only show up in the first stage, but don't let their size fool you. They pack a paralyzing venom strong enough to drop a grown man in seconds. The bald guy mocks him one last time, telling him to try not to die. Julian just ignores the guy. He honestly doesn't get why some people are so annoying. Then the swarm hits. Monsters lunge from every direction, and the trial for survival officially begins. Alaric noticed something wild. These monsters moved exactly like the ones in the legendary trial from his past life. If their patterns were a match, their death blow points had to be in the same spots too. Suddenly, one of those winged scourges lunged straight at our hero. Alaric didn't blink. He used the trial's own critical hit system, drew his blade, and aimed for the creature's dead center. One strike, clean. The monster was erased in a single, devastating hit. He even stuck a flashy hero pose afterward, completely shocking the other recruits who'd treated him like a total loser. Lord Pompous, our resident bald knight, muttered that it was nothing but a lucky fluke. He couldn't believe his eyes. Little did he know, Alaric was shamelessly exploiting a secret tutorial glitch. See, if you hit the weak spot with that specific rusty shortsword, every attack became an instant kill. And he was just getting started. A whole swarm charged him next. But since Alaric was the only one in on the secret, he just started cleaning house. Pure confidence. Meanwhile, the other trainees were out there struggling just to survive. Then there's Sir Egbert, bragging about killing 2 measly monsters like he's a legend, shouting about getting the best job rank. Alaric saw right through it. The guy was just trying to distract everyone to hog the glory. It was so annoying that Alaric actually lost his rhythm for a second, giving a winged scourge a chance to strike. But our boy, not a chance. He sidestepped with effortless grace, leaving the beast growling in pure frustration as it missed. Honestly, this was way more fun than the trial ever was in his past life. He started dropping them one by one. Finally, the 5-minute bell echoed through the training grounds. Time for the results. Everyone gathered to see what knightly profession they'd qualified for based on their performance. One poor recruit was devastated because he didn't land a single kill, meaning his adventuring career was over before it started. Sir Egbert started screaming, 15 kills, witness me, I'm a god among men. With a natural talent for being a total jerk, he immediately headed over to mock Alaric. Our hero was just chilling, checking his options, when 𝑭𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 stomped over to demand his score. Alaric was genuinely surprised. This guy was still being this inconvenient. But when the bald guy actually saw Alaric's individual score, he went into physical shock. He couldn't wrap his head around it. Not only could Alaric pick the most elite jobs in the kingdom, he'd slaughtered 33 monsters, using the absolute worst sword in the tutorial armory. Realizing he couldn't talk trash anymore, he just stammered, I can be a swordsman too, and Alaric just politely congratulated him. To most people, the swordsman or sorcerer paths were the absolute peak of professions. But Alaric had a very different, much crazier plan in mind. He accepted his bonus gear and made his choice. He was becoming an artificer. The whole room went silent. An artificer. Everyone thought he'd completely lost his mind. Egbert laughed, calling him an idiot for picking a trash job, but Alaric just gave him a little mischievous smirk. See, he knew the secret. The profession is only as powerful as the man using it. Those 33 kills were for a reason. He needed specific drops that only exist in this exact tutorial map. Egbert just stood there, looking absolutely clueless, as Alaric pulled out his items. This is exactly why he's the main character. He started fusing those 3 rare drops with his crappy short sword. since the artificer path lets you merge items to create legendary gear. That rusty blade began to transform into something terrifying, while the others just watched in total confusion. When the light faded, Alaric was holding a weapon so broken it could shatter the very rules of the trial. The centipede blade. Attack power jumped from 1 to 66, with a passive that tripled damage on weak points. It was a hidden, legendary item, a secret only he carried from his previous life. With the tutorial finally cleared, Alaric knew the truth. In this world, levels and jobs are the foundation, but the right gear, that is the ultimate power. Most gear follows the standard laws of the realm, but then you have secret equipment, the kind of legendary relics that break every rule in the book. Our boy Arthur finally makes his way into 𝑭𝒊𝒅𝒔, the great city of knights and sellswords. The main streets are absolutely packed, commerce is booming, and honestly, the place feels just like home to him. A local merchant offers him a fresh apple, and he picks one up, chewing thoughtfully while planning his next move on a full stomach. Here's the deal. Every kingdom in this land has its own forbidden trial that needs to be conquered by a champion. Most knights start at the bottom with a grade 6 trial, but Arthur, he's built different. He heads straight for a grade 3 crypt. His mission is simple: find the local guardian and put it down. The catch: you can't leave until you win. Period. Arthur is only at the first rank, standing in a place where even a level 30 veteran would break a sweat. Before he can even worry about his paper-thin armor, a level 17 monster lunges out from the shadows. Arthur doesn't panic. He just summons the spine whip and readies himself for the clash. He's 16 levels below a creature that usually shouldn't be a threat, but at this stage, one single hit and it's game over. The demonic plant lashes out with terrifying speed, but Arthur knows its rhythm. He waits for that one tiny window where the beast is vulnerable. Then bam, he dives in, catches the weak spot, and slices the thing clean in half. That one kill, it jumps him 9 levels instantly. He feels his strength surging, and dumps every single attribute point into his defense. Things are looking up. With the spine whip in hand, he might even be ready for a grade 2 crypt soon. But he knows the weapon's true power hasn't even been tapped into yet. He decides to farm a bit more experience while trekking toward the main boss. As he's walking through the woods, the air gets heavy. Suddenly, he's surrounded. 3 black cobras, mini-bosses of this forest, emerge from the brush. Seeing 3 of these things together is basically unheard of. One of them charges like a bullet. But Arthur manages to dodge the very last second. These things are aggressive, nearly catching him from his blind spot, but he manages to leap aside. As he lands, the other 2 launch a synchronized strike. He has to stay icy. He knows the critical points, but he needs a perfect opening. He strikes at the neck of one cobra, but the beast actually blocks him. It's weird. These monsters are actually protecting themselves, which is not at all how they're supposed to act. That's when the third one strikes from behind. Cold, precise, and it connects. It's the first time he's actually taken a direct hit. He uses the close range to his advantage, swinging the spine whip in a brutal vertical arc, twisting his whole body into the strike. 1 cobra down. Arthur gains 3 levels in the heat of the moment, but things are grim. He's down to his last 8 hit points. If he hadn't maxed his defense earlier, he'd be a corpse by now. But there's a silver lining. He just unlocked the spine whip's second secret skill. The remaining snakes lunge at him while he's still on the ground. Arthur is faster. He instantly reallocates his stats, stripping all his defense and dumping it into pure speed. In a literal blink of an eye, both monsters are dead. Turns out, the spine whip gives him a 10-fold speed boost, but only when his health is in the red. The beasts collapse, and Arthur just gives a cocky smirk, telling the world he's not ready to die just yet. He's level 17 now. He leans against a tree to catch his breath before moving on. He weighs his options. If he heals, he loses that insane speed buff. He decides to stay bloody and bruised. He knows this place well enough to finish it while injured. He realizes now that this isn't a game anymore. The pain and the wounds, they're very real. Without another thought, he moves on, striking down the next enemy with a single, stylish blow to its heart. He strikes a pose as it falls behind him, playing it smart by hunting the smaller fry first. Every bit of experience counts when your life is on the line. Alistair knew this wouldn't be a walk in the park. He needed his alchemy skills perfectly prepped before facing the chamber's guardian. He runs through the massive list of materials in his head, while effortlessly cutting down the local beasts in his path. Grinding this hard just for one rare item. It's insane. It reminded him why so many people in his past life hated this game for being such a slog. But complaining wasn't going to get the job done. He had to buckle down and finish the collection before the dungeon lord showed its face. Time starts slipping away deep inside the vault. Alistair is struggling. He hasn't even found half of the components he's looking for yet. 3 items down, 4 to go. Not great. But then, out of nowhere, a voice echoes through the trees, calling his name from behind. Our hero spins around on the spot, wondering who on earth could be out here. He ends up face to face with a guy from his old village, a real jerk who used to call him the Failure, like it was his actual name. It clicks. This loud-mouthed idiot is Julian, a face he definitely didn't miss. Julian became a knight-errant a few years back, and he's already acting like royalty, mocking Alistair's alchemy class to make himself feel superior. He turns to his buddy and laughs, saying Alistair was the poorest soul in the kingdom, and that he'd never befriend someone so pathetic. He just spills Alistair's miserable history right there, acting like his tragic past is some kind of hilarious joke. Honestly, they treat him like dirt, like a stray mutt that doesn't even have feelings. Suddenly, Alistair hears a voice in his mind, whispering the tragic lore of his own character's past life. But Julian cuts his thoughts short with a threat, acting like your typical, arrogant noble brat who thinks he can do whatever he wants. He demands to know what a failure is doing in a high-level dungeon. Then, roar, a bone-shaking scream erupts from the nearby forest. The random sidekick starts shaking like a leaf as the dungeon's true terror emerges, a level 31 Cyclops. Julian screams at his terrified friend, yelling for him to move his legs instead of standing there like a complete moron. Too late, Alistair realizes the beast has already locked onto him. He's been marked as the primary target. The monster heaves its massive club into the air and bam, it crushes the nameless sidekick in a single, brutal swing. Even our hero freezes for a second. This is a brutal reality check, and it's happening at the worst possible time. Julian hits the dirt too, paralyzed and trembling with pure, unadulterated terror. The Cyclops doesn't stop. It locks its gaze on its next target. With that huge level gap, Alistair's confidence is at an all-time low. But the boss, it doesn't care about his feelings at all. It lunges. Alistair barely dodges the blow thanks to his insane agility. But the marked status is active. He's stuck in this fight. Running isn't an option anymore. The system won't let him leave, meaning he has no choice but to stand his ground. The beast bellows again, hoisting its giant club for another world-ending strike. It swings, the ground shatters, but Alistair slips through the gap. He knows the patterns and he's fast enough to dance around death. Meanwhile, his old friend, Julian, is still sitting in the dirt like a deer in headlights, watching the whole thing. He's speechless. He can't believe what he's seeing. The fight is pure chaos, and Alistair knows he can't just run forever. He has to act. The Cyclops slams its club down one more time, hitting the earth with incredible force. The whole world shakes, but there, an opening, Alistair sees his chance. He keeps his cool, hops right onto the massive weapon, and starts climbing, which makes the boss absolutely livid. He leaps to its hand, then launches himself toward the sky, landing right behind the monster's head. He's aiming straight for the neck. Using the gravity of the fall to build momentum, the protagonist pours every ounce of strength into one devastating blow. But this isn't a fairy tale. The hit does nothing. It didn't even leave a scratch on the beast. All it did was piss the monster off. It tries to swat Alistair off its back, but luckily, it's way too slow to catch him. A battle like this was never going to be easy without being fully prepared. And Julian, he's still hiding in a bush like a coward, watching the spectacle with his jaw on the floor. He can't wrap his head around it. How is the loser he underestimated moving with such incredible, impressive speed? The Cyclops doesn't stop for a second. Alistair can't cause real damage yet, but then he remembers the only trick he has left. He scans the area for the missing materials and realizes they're all sitting right next to the bush where Julian is hiding. He doesn't think twice. He bolts straight for the items. He grabs the final ingredients, finds some water nearby, and finally, he's got everything he needs. He triggers his alchemy skills, and just like that, a deadly toxin glows bright purple inside his flask. Game on. Lord Julian warned him that a common toxin wouldn't even tickle a beast of that rank, but Geoffrey wasn't listening. He was already busy brewing something lethal using the fangs he'd harvested from the serpents earlier. He whipped up a poison so potent it made Julian's jaw drop. He had seriously underestimated our hero's hidden talents, and now he was seeing the terrifying results. Geoffrey popped the cork and poured the glowing liquid over his centipede blade, fusing the venom with the living weapon. The blade shifted, evolving into its true, lethal form. Julian, the coward, was so mesmerized he actually forgot about the massive giant looming over them, ready to flatten them into the dirt. But Geoffrey, his confidence was back in a big way. Our boy dived straight back into the chaos. The giant swung its massive club with bone-crushing force, but it didn't even come close to touching him. Moving like a literal blur, he baited the beast into an opening. He dodged the monster's most ferocious slam with a casual sidestep that made it look easy. Then came the leap. He launched himself toward the giant's neck, preparing an attack that was about to be absolutely devastating. The giant didn't stand a chance. Geoffrey rained down a flurry of slashes on the exact same spot, forcing the boss to let out a roar of pure, unadulterated agony. The beast tried to tank it, relying on its massive health pool to fight off the creeping paralysis of the venom. But it was no use. Desperate and dying, the giant clawed at its own flesh, trying to shake off the centipede's curse, but the toxin was already deep in its system. Slowly but surely, those massive legs began to buckle. This was the opening Geoffrey was waiting for, the moment to end this nightmare once and for all. He steeled his nerves, drawing back his blade with cold, surgical precision. Boom, a direct hit right in the eye. A critical strike that sent the Titan crashing to its knees, trembling in its final moments of pain. Geoffrey stuck the landing on the solid earth, striking a hero's pose as the giant finally breathed its last. Julian just stood there, staring like he'd seen a ghost. He couldn't wrap his head around the fact that this was the same guy he'd looked down on just a few hours ago. As the tension finally snapped, Julian realized he was in trouble. Fearing he might be the next one on Geoffrey's list, the bully turned tail and ran like a kicked dog. Safe at last, Geoffrey finally breathed a sigh of relief. The plan worked. He opened up his inventory, already calculating his next move in this grand adventure. Talk about a jackpot, 350,000 gold coins. That is a massive haul for a boss at this level. This was exactly what he needed to take care of his mother. But the real prize, the azure eye of the silent depths. Okay, carrying a giant's eyeball in your pocket is pretty gross, but trust me, it's the key to crafting his next secret legendary gear. Leaving the dungeon behind, Geoffrey headed toward the Whispering Highlands, a place that felt strangely nostalgic to him. In this world, the ultimate goal was simple: take down the dark sovereign ruling over the 7 realms. And that journey starts right here. He needed one more piece for his gear set, and that's why slaying that giant was absolutely necessary. Suddenly, a pack of shadow wolves lunged from the brush, teeth bared and ready for blood. Too easy. Geoffrey mowed them down, deciding to grind some more levels. His mission? Kill the gods, bring peace, and get rich enough to take care of his mother forever. And most importantly, shutting up everyone who ever dared to call him a loser. That was the dream. He just needed more power. Soon, word started spreading about a mysterious rookie who'd slaughtered 33 elites during the trial phase. The name, 𝑭𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔, was starting to ring bells across the entire kingdom. In every tavern and alleyway, people were whispering about this mysterious boy and what he was truly capable of. But our hero, he had no idea. He was out there in the wilds, calmly grinding away. He had almost everything he needed. Almost. He just needed sapphire hawk feathers. They aren't exactly legendary items, but they were the final piece of his puzzle. There were 7 major dungeons in this realm, and Jeffrey knew he had to conquer them all. 6 ranged from Tier F to Tier A, but the final one, the Dread Citadel, was Tier S. The place he was in now was the best spot to find those hawks. But luck wasn't on his side today. No birds in sight. Time for a break. He headed into the nearest city to dig for some intel, wandering the streets looking for a reliable shop. One store caught his eye for some reason. He went to open the door, but the sound of screams coming from inside stopped him cold. Thieves, a gang of thugs burst out of the shop, arms full of stolen loot, shoving their way through the crowded street. They were absolute savages, knocking innocent people over left and right in their desperate scramble to get away. One lowlife even shoved a little girl aside. Jeffrey caught her just before she hit the stone steps, and man, he was starting to get really ticked off. The girl's mother thanked him profusely as the trash, the vagabonds, disappeared into the distance. The shopkeeper stumbled out, teeth gritted in pure fury after being cleaned out by those thugs. He told Jeffrey about the Iron Hound Syndicate, a brutal guild that treated this whole territory like their personal playground. Suddenly, it all made sense. This is why the Sapphire Hawks were missing. These goons were messing with the entire region. The poor merchant was devastated, weeping about how he'd have to shut his doors for good, and Jeffrey knew he couldn't just stand by. Standing in the shadows of the kingdom's underworld, Gideon watched, analyzing the odds. Could he really take down an entire criminal syndicate all by himself? Then he remembered the cruelty he'd witnessed just moments ago. That spark of rage. It was all the motivation he needed to burn the place down. No more hesitation. Without a second thought, he followed the trail left by those shameless scoundrels. After scouring the grimy backstreets of 𝒊𝒊𝒅𝒔, he finally tracked them down. They were huddled together, bragging about how they'd bled the local shops dry. Hearing their boasts, his gut told him he was in the right place. The stolen azure griffin plumes had to be buried in that pile of loot. He scanned the hideout with narrowed eyes. Then, there, he finally spotted exactly what he'd been hunting for. Small glass jars glowing with a faint blue tint. Meanwhile, the thieves were gossiping about the legendary rookie who'd shattered the record by slaying 33 monsters. Gideon was so locked into his plan to rob the robbers that he didn't even realize the legendary rookie they were terrified of was actually him. But his tactical planning was cut short. A shadow loomed right behind him out of nowhere. The coward pressed a cold dagger against the boy's neck, having crept up using a high-level stealth ability. Gideon tried to play it cool, spinning a few excuses to avoid a bloodbath. But let's be real, it takes a thief to know one. His amateur disguise was blown wide open. No escape now. The rogue swung with a lethal, high-speed slash. But Gideon moved like lightning. He dodged the steel and summoned his jagged crawler's fang blade into his hand in a heartbeat. As the thug lunged again, Gideon saw the opening and didn't miss. He swept his leg out, catching the man's balance perfectly. The rogue hit the dirt hard, and a swift punch to the back of the neck sent him straight to sleep. The ruckus alerted the rest of the pack. Suddenly, every pair of eyes in the hideout was locked onto the intruder. Realizing the game was up, Gideon decided to just be honest. Why bother lying at this point? He told them he was just there for some bird feathers, all while casually wielding a blade that looked like it was forged in the pits of hell. Talk about mixed signals, right? Realizing he wasn't walking out without a fight, he dropped the weak kid act and decided to charge in with pure brute force. Every bandit in the room drew their steel at once. One of them rushed Gideon, but the boy danced around the attack like it was slow motion. Wham! A blunt strike to the nose sent the guy reeling, while the rest of the gang stood paralyzed, listening to their friends' screams of agony. Another rogue tried to slip in a backstab, but Gideon ducked low, letting the blade whistle harmlessly overhead. He spun into a powerful kick that sent the thugs spiraling back. Right then, a spearman lunged forward with a deadly thrust. But our boy just reached out and caught the weapon with his bare hand. Absolute boss move. He jerked the man closer and buried a fist deep into his stomach. A blow so violent the world's system flagged it as a critical hit. Hoping to catch him off guard, a massive bandit swung a heavy axe in a brutal upward arc. Gideon dropped into a low crouch and struck upward, slamming the hilt of his blade directly into the man's jaw. "Look, I'm really not in the mood for a massacre," he sighed, staring at the 4 broken thieves groaning on the floor. He tried one last time to explain. He just wanted the azure griffin plumes, and he'd be on his way. But then, a sudden blur. For the first time, he was actually caught off guard by an assassin using master-level stealth. Gideon barely blocked the killing blow at the last possible second. This guy was different. He had the same stealth as the first guy, but the skill level, way higher. And then it clicked. This was the same piece of trash who'd shoved that little girl down the stairs earlier. Their eyes locked in a tense standoff. The man sneered, introducing himself as the infamous submaster of the syndicate, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔. He waited for the boy to tremble, claiming that surely someone like Gideon had heard of his bloody reputation. But Gideon just gave him a blank stare. "Never heard of you," he said, cold as ice. 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 absolutely lost it. Pure rage. He charged in, his high-rank enchanted weapon glowing with a dangerous light. The submaster ignored the disrespect and kept barking threats, acting like some legendary warrior instead of a common crook. He mocked Gideon, claiming the boy only had such a rare sword because of pure, dumb luck. 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 lectured him that true power comes from a master's skills, not his gear, but Gideon didn't even bother to put effort into his defense. He dodged with minimal movement, letting a powerful slash shatter the stone floor right where he'd been standing a second ago. 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 kept laughing, pointing a finger in his face, and mocking Gideon for still wearing basic tutorial-level leather armor. He couldn't wrap his head around why such a weak-looking kid had such a legendary weapon. He told Gideon he was clearly out of his league and had never faced a real adventurer before. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned a circle of floating, magical daggers, all while continuing to spew his arrogant nonsense. Sir 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 didn't hold back, hurling every piece of debris at the boy in a single, desperate wave, but Arthur. He just swatted them aside like they were nothing more than flies. The knight continued his arrogant lecture, explaining that in a real duel between adventurers, everything comes down to one thing. You have to read your opponent's skills to win before the fight even starts. Looking at Arthur's cheap gear, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 was convinced the boy was just a low-tier squire with no real specialty. Because of that massive mistake, he thought he only had to worry about the kid's sword movements. Big mistake. He then smirked, challenging our hero to guess exactly what legendary profession he held. In his head, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 figured that if Arthur couldn't identify his class, he'd never be able to predict the deadly abilities coming his way. Little did he know, Arthur had the entire kingdom's secrets and a full walkthrough of this world burned into his brain. He honestly couldn't care less. Casually, Arthur just shrugged and called him what he really was, a common, bottom-tier street thief. Hearing that level of disrespect was the final straw. 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 snapped, screaming that he was actually a spirit caller, one of the 2 most broken classes from the Great Awakening. Honestly, Arthur just felt bad for the guy. Imagine thinking you're a god just because you picked a rare class. Still, he kept his guard up. One slip against a spirit caller like 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔, and it was game over, permanently. Arthur decided to end this fast. No more ego trips, no more playing around. He charged forward, a total blur of speed and steel. But just as he was about to strike, 2 hidden bandits jumped him from the shadows, forcing Arthur to pull off a wild, acrobatic backflip to save his own skin. It was a close call. He felt the cold steel of a dagger barely miss his gut by a fraction of an inch. He didn't waste the momentum, though, using the dodge to slide right back into the pocket. He drove the hilt of his serpent blade directly into the knight's most sensitive regions, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 didn't even have time to blink before that super critical hit landed. The scream that followed was absolutely legendary, loud enough to rattle the stones and shatter the glass in the surrounding houses. With foam bubbling at his mouth, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 went down hard, and his terrified lackeys scrambled over to see if their leader was even still alive. Arthur gave a mock apology for wrecking the beloved sub-commander of the Black Hound mercenaries, letting a dark, suffocating pressure settle over the entire gang. He looked the rest of the thugs dead in the eye, and trust me, he wasn't joking. Give me the sapphire griffin plumes now, or you're all ending up like 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔. The thieves didn't even hesitate. They chose survival over pride instantly. But suddenly, the shadows shifted. A whole new crowd of mercenaries appeared, pointing at Arthur and whispering that he must be a spy from a rival noble house. Arthur just sighed. Seriously, more trouble. He was completely surrounded again, and the frustration was definitely starting to show. Some of the newer bandits couldn't wrap their heads around it. All this chaos, caused by a single kid. They looked at 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 face down in the dirt, looking absolutely pathetic and defeated. They tried to make sense of it, convinced a kid couldn't actually win a fair fight. Maybe the commander was just drunk. Yeah, that had to be it. Arthur just stood there, listening to their delusional excuses, until a heavy, booming voice echoed from the back of the alley. This was clearly the real deal, the strongest man in the guild. Every thief in the area immediately ran to his side like frightened puppies. They called him Master, frantically trying to explain how this kid had just dismantled their entire squad. Arthur waited patiently, sizing up the newcomer while the man stared down at the broken mess that used to be his second in command. Their eyes locked in a fierce, silent clash. Finally, the man asked the million-dollar question. "Which guild do you serve, kid?" Arthur's answer, "None, I'm solo." That actually caught the Master of Thieves off guard. He paused for a heartbeat, then let out a deep, booming laugh. He liked the kid's fire. Right then and there, he offered Arthur a spot in his inner circle, an invitation that honestly left our hero a bit stunned. He admitted that normally, he'd have crushed someone for this, but since Arthur beat 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔, he clearly had the strength to back up his attitude. Lord Oswald, that was his name, even invited Arthur for a drink at the local tavern. But Arthur, he shut that down immediately. He swiped the man's hand away with pure contempt, making it clear he was only there for one thing, those sapphire griffin plumes. He basically called their entire guild a joke and demanded his prize. You could see Lord Oswald's face turn bright red as he started shaking with pure rage. Arthur didn't stop, though, throwing the cold truth in his face about how they were nothing but cowards who preyed on the weak. That was the breaking point. In a flash, Oswald swung a massive, heavy axe, delivering a bone-shattering blow toward the ground. The earth literally split open. A massive crater formed, and a thick cloud of dust swallowed the entire street from the sheer force of the impact. Oswald growled that he'd changed his mind. Since Arthur was so reckless, he was going to make him a subordinate by force. No more asking nicely. Arthur felt the weight of that swing. This wasn't a game anymore. This guy was no common thug. Arthur barely dodged a follow-up strike as the axe came whistling up from the ground in a deadly arc. Our hero pulled off a perfect somersault through the air to create some distance. He knew right then, if this master started using high-tier profession skills, this fight was about to get very, very ugly. Arthur knew he had to end this fast. He lunged forward, unleashing a brutal sideswipe that sliced through the air with terrifying speed. He dropped low, coiling his muscles like a spring before exploding upward into a crouch. The guild master didn't see the change in momentum coming, not until Arthur's fist buried itself deep into his gut. It was a solid hit, but this was a seasoned veteran. One strike wasn't going to be enough to finish the master. Sir Alistair narrowed his eyes, finally realizing he couldn't take this brat lightly. They locked eyes, both of them radiating pure, unwavering intensity. Then the big man did something unexpected. He tossed his massive axe aside. Arthur was stunned for a second, but then the truth hit him. This guy wasn't just a warrior, he was a pure brawler. By ditching his weapon, the man triggered a secret technique, tripling his raw physical power for exactly 3 minutes of absolute carnage. The Shadow Syndicate went wild. Seeing their master finally getting serious meant only one thing: the kid was about to be pulverized. Neither of them blinked. Then, in a flash, Alistair threw a lightning-fast jab aimed straight for Arthur's face. Close call. Our boy managed to dodge just in time, but the sheer force of that punch, it literally shattered the stone wall behind him into dust. Knowing a single hit would be game over, the master kept the pressure on, roaring at the boy to try and break his spirit while preparing another devastating strike. But Arthur didn't flinch. He stared back with cold fury and drove the serpent blade into the man's stomach for a massive critical hit. The Master of Thieves let out a guttural scream of pure agony. His men, totally horrified. Their invincible leader was actually being broken. As he crumpled to the floor, defeated, a heavy silence fell over the scoundrels. One of them whispered, "Wait, is that the legendary adventurer from the capital's reports?" The realization finally hit them. Arthur stood there, calm and terrifying, as the entire guild descended into a total, screaming panic. Now that they knew they were messing with a true hero, Arthur stepped forward, hoping to actually have a word with them. But before he could even get a sentence out, they bolted. Every single one of them ran for their lives, leaving Arthur totally confused why everyone was so scared. Oh well. He grabbed the cobalt phoenix feathers and headed back to return the stolen loot to the merchants. Next on the list, the B-rank labyrinth of the Ironwood Kingdom. He cleared the local boss without breaking a sweat and reached the central altar. But Arthur paused, noting that the legendary statue of the fallen saint was missing. Here's the secret. If you can crack the mechanism of that missing statue, you unlock the second piece of legendary gear. He pulled the Cyclops eye from his pack, slotting it into the statue's face, and carefully placed the phoenix feather on its right wing. That did it. The mechanism groaned to life as the statue began to weep golden tears into a chalice, granting him his prize, the Covenant Crown. This item was a total game-changer. It granted him 2 insane passive skills, mind reading and magical perception. With abilities like those, it's no wonder this challenge was considered impossible for most warriors. Arthur took a moment to admire the handiwork, feeling pretty good about the haul. He didn't waste another second and equipped the crown immediately. It felt a bit weird, honestly. He felt like some kind of wandering spirit with that thing on his head. But hey, as long as people didn't realize how overpowered he'd become, he could live with looking a little strange. 2 secret items down. Now, it was finally time to tackle his first S-rank dungeon. He arrived at the dungeon entrance, ready for glory, but his hype was instantly crushed. The Ember Depths had a strict rule, 7 people minimum, and right now, there wasn't a single party looking for a new recruit. The problem with S-rank dungeons is that once they're cleared, they randomly respawn somewhere else on the continent. Whoever beats it gets a legendary title and access to the second realm. Arthur was itching to move forward, and he wasn't about to let this stop him. While he was brainstorming a plan, the crowd started buzzing. A high-tier party led by Lady Alara, the flame sorceress, had just arrived. Arthur was instantly intrigued. He watched the group as the entire room started whispering about their legendary exploits. Right then, the Covenant Crown pulsed. Mind reading activated. He saw right through Alara's stoic mask. She was desperate to enter the dungeon but was one person short. Arthur's eyes lit up, back in the game. He walked up to them, being as polite as humanly possible, and asked if they had room for one more. Everyone immediately stared at the floating halo on his head like he was some kind of freak. Honestly, crown or no crown, people always thought he was a bit of an oddball. One of the party members shut him down instantly. "We're not heading in yet, kid. Beat it." But Arthur read his mind. The real reason, their 7th member was actually in the hospital and they were stuck in limbo. He didn't back down. With a bold grin, he said he'd rather hear from the leader herself, since she seemed just as anxious as he was. However, the real reason for her nerves was that her father had been missing inside an S-rank dungeon for a whole month. 𝒊𝒅𝒅 didn't even respond to our hero, lost in her own worry. To make things worse, she was actually concerned that the weird crown on Arthur's head might be some kind of dangerous, cursed relic. Arthur took a breath, composed himself, and formally introduced himself to the group. He made one thing very clear. He wasn't just some tourist. He needed to get inside that dungeon just as badly as they did. The moment his name was whispered, the realization hit them like a physical blow. This eccentric kid was the one from the Royal Gazettes, the legendary rookie who'd slaughtered 33 beasts single-handedly back in the trial grounds. They were floored. How could this strange boy be that same monster slayer? Alaric felt the awkward weight of their stares, but Lady 𝒊𝒅𝒏 noticed something far deeper. It was as if he could peer directly into her soul, possessing a supernatural sense that shouldn't belong to a commoner. Looking at him, you could tell this boy had already survived a lifetime of tragedy, and because of that, the young noblewoman finally felt the spark of courage needed to breach the dungeon. She turned to him with a sharp, piercing gaze. He could join their vanguard, but the deal was simple. If he became a liability, they'd leave him for the crows. Alaric gave a cold nod, finally at ease as he stepped toward the looming shadow of the challenge. The company began their trek through the scorched, ash-choked plateaus of Mount Cinder. Naturally, they shoved our hero to the front of the line. After all, if someone had to bleed first, it might as well be the strange kid. One of the knights grumbled, asking if they could truly trust a boy who looked so unreliable. But 𝒊𝒅𝒏 shut him down, stating that if he was skilled, he'd be an asset, and if not, he'd make for excellent bait. A young swordsman named Arthur pulled up beside Alaric, whispering if he really was the warrior from the headlines. But since our hero couldn't care less about fame or titles, he gave a noncommittal shrug, which only fueled Arthur's suspicion. Another soldier scoffed, calling the rumors a blatant lie. There was no way a kid like this possessed that kind of raw power. To them, he was just a freak with a strange, glowing mark hovering above his head. With the constant judgment and whispering, our hero was already reaching his limit with this arrogant bunch. But before he could lose his temper, his passive ability, Arcane Sight, flared to life. He sensed it instantly, a pack of vicious beasts charging through the smoke right toward them. Alaric barked an order for the heavy knight to raise his shield immediately, because things were about to go south fast. The knight just stood there blinking, completely lost, until the boy snapped at him to move his as the eruptions were starting. Still doubting the kid, the knight started to mock him, right until a nearby vent literally exploded in a pillar of fire. The guy's jaw hit the floor, paralyzed in pure shock as usual. Alaric shouted again, demanding he protect the group as everyone looked up to see a literal rain of burning boulders screaming toward them. Finally waking up, the shield knight stopped fumbling and activated his Aegis shroud, slamming a shimmering barrier around the entire party. But with the sky falling in a hail of fire and brimstone, they were pinned down, unable to move an inch. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 stepped forward, her eyes glowing as she took absolute command of the chaos. She began channeling a high-tier spell known as Solar Flare, a massive magic circle erupting beneath their feet as she leveled her staff at the heavens. With a deafening boom, the sheer pressure of her magic acted like a physical wall, blasting the falling stones back into the sky with a massive gust of wind. Total silence. Everyone was staring at her in awe, and even our protagonist found himself genuinely impressed by her raw magical output. But the victory was short-lived, as a massive fissure ripped through the earth right beneath them. The entire ledge crumbled in seconds, sending the terrain sliding into the dark. Arthur lost his footing, nearly tumbling straight into the jagged maw of the earth. But thanks to Alaric's inhuman reflexes, he lunged forward and snatched the knight by his wrist. The two of them hung there, staring down into a pitch-black abyss. The ground gave way completely, dragging Alaric and Arthur down into the hole as they both scrambled to find a way to survive the lethal drop. They landed with a heavy thud on something surprisingly soft, specifically a level 38 beast known as a woolly wyvern, which had been peacefully dreaming. The boy realized his secret luck stat item must have kicked in, otherwise, they'd be nothing but red stains on the rocks right now. but he celebrated way too early. He'd forgotten one tiny detail. The beast was officially wide awake. He hissed at Arthur to get off the monster before they became its midnight snack. They scrambled back, drawing their steel as the massive bat creature rose to its full, terrifying height. Alaric quickly analyzed the beast, warning that it possessed impact absorption, meaning their fall had likely just charged its power to the max. Arthur drew his humble dagger, his knuckles white. He snapped that he didn't need a lecture on the basics, and the hero just narrowed his eyes, warning him that the real fight was starting now. The wyvern let out a bone-chilling screech, the sound waves so violent they sent jagged rocks flying like shrapnel, but Alaric moved like a blur, knocking his companion out of harm's way. Realizing Arthur needed to wake up and take this seriously, Alaric's voice boomed as he unsheathed his wicked centipede blade. Arthur watched in frozen silence, realizing that if it wasn't for this weirdo, he'd already be a corpse. He finally understood the true, suffocating terror of battling in an S-rank abyss. While he was spiraling in fear, the boy stepped forward and dismantled the massive monster effortlessly. Arthur didn't even see the killing blow. All he knew was that the kid had one-shotted a high-level nightmare without even breaking a sweat. From the ledge far above, Ilara cast a light spell, confirming that her companions had somehow survived the plunge. Seeing the beast slain below, the woman finally started to piece it together. Alaric Thorn was truly cut from a different cloth. The other knights asked if they should descend to rescue Arthur, but Ilara held them back, knowing it would only drain the vanguard's precious energy. She reminded them of their true mission, the reason they were bleeding in this hellhole, to hunt down and execute the demon lord. And since they all shared that same bloody goal, it was only a matter of time before the siblings found each other. Lady Ilara told the others not to worry about young Julian, as he was her own flesh and blood, and she'd trained him in the arts of war herself. Meanwhile, further in, our lead Alistair and Julian shared a quiet moment to catch their breath. That's when Alistair realized the truth. They weren't just exploring, they were searching for their missing father in these cursed crypts. With the air finally cleared, they decided it was time to press on. Julian hesitated, asking if it wouldn't be safer to head back to the surface and follow the main road like proper knights. But Alistair shut that down fast. He warned the boy that at his current level, he wouldn't last 5 minutes out there. He'd just be another body in the dirt. So here was the deal. Alistair was going deeper to grind and sharpen his skills, and he invited Julian to join him, but only if the kid actually wanted to get stronger. Julian followed, hyped for the challenge, but he froze the moment they turned the corner. Before them stood a massive flock of ember skeletal hawks, their bones wreathed in flickering flames. Every single one of those birds was higher level than the shadow bats they'd fought before. Taking them all on at once, that was a death sentence. But Alistair, our boy, just gave a wicked little smirk and drew his serrated whip blade. In a blur of steel, he carved through several of them in an instant. Julian was so stunned by the raw power that he actually let his guard down, and one of the hawks dove straight for his blind spot. He barely dodged, hitting the dirt hard, but he scrambled back up and found his focus in a heartbeat. He snatched his longbow, drew back the string, and thwack. A perfect, fatal shot right through the beast's skull. One-on-one, Julian could handle that. As long as he wasn't being swarmed from all sides, the kid actually had some serious skill. Julian then turned around to see how Alistair was holding up against the rest. His jaw hit the floor. In the few seconds he'd been distracted, the entire flock had already been wiped out. Alistair was already casually munching on the monster cores they'd dropped. He even offered some to Julian, though the guy was eating at a terrifyingly fast pace. Apparently, he needed to scarf down 50 of these things to trigger a mysterious buff. But before he could finish his meal, a heavy presence started closing in on them. A massive fire drake. This was the local mini-boss of the Abyss, a legendary beast known simply as the Salamander. But then disaster struck. At level 45, Alistair's stomach finally gave up on him. He doubled over, sick from the cores, and his stats plummeted by 30% after well, let's just say he lost his lunch. Julian just stood there, watching this pathetic display, while Alistair explained that this drake was a subspecies, an evolved predator that grew powerful by feasting on humans. The drake didn't care about their little chat, though. It lashed out with its massive, flaming tail, catching Julian square in the chest and launching him into the jagged cave wall. Alistair actually looked worried for a second, but Julian gritted his teeth and stood back up. He was still in the fight. Time for the lead to take charge, debuff or not. But as they clashed, Alistair noticed the monster was acting strange. It looked sick too. Suddenly, the salamander started retching. A human skeleton tumbled out of its maw along with some rare loot. Alistair expected this. He knew the dark lore of this place better than anyone. But for Julian, seeing that skeleton changed everything. He went pale, paralyzed by a sudden, gut-wrenching realization. Alistair tried to keep the mood light, sarcastically challenging the beast to fight before it felt the urge to puke again. Behind him, Julian completely broke down. He collapsed into the dirt, sobbing and calling out for his father. That's when Alistair's passive sense flared to life. He felt a freezing wave of murderous intent, not from the boss, but from Julian, who was staring at the monster with an expression that was pure nightmare fuel. Julian didn't shout. He didn't hesitate, he just lunged. He gripped a pair of daggers in each hand, moving with a frantic desperation that actually managed to draw the salamander's full attention. Alistair tried to tell him to back off, but the grief made the boy reckless. He got swatted by that flaming tail again, sent flying even harder this time. Yet, fueled by a rage that was burning hotter than the monster's flames, he scrambled back up and reset his stance immediately. Enough was enough. Alistair stepped in, grabbing the kid and ordering him to get a damn grip on himself. Julian was blind with revenge, begging to be let go, but Alistair roared back at him. He asked what would happen to Julian's family if he died here too, all because he was being stubborn. That hit like a bucket of ice water. Julian snapped back to reality, finally seeing the suicide mission for what it was. Alistair softened his tone, explaining that he didn't have to do this alone. But the rage was still there. Julian finally choked out the truth. That skeleton the beast threw up, it was his father, the man they had been searching for this entire time. You could feel the air grow heavy as Julian's heart just shattered. The poor kid was collapsing from the inside out. After a moment, Julian whispered an apology to Alistair for the outburst. He turned his eyes back to the beast. Alistair shifted into commander mode, asking if Julian had hunter skills like the war cry, and what exactly he had in his gear pouch. Julian checked his inventory, mostly standard hunting supplies. But he also had a bunch of shadow wing feathers for some reason. Alistair's eyes lit up. He explained how a hunter's passive skills could use those materials, and he laid out a plan. If they worked together, they could actually take this thing down. With both of them finally on the same page and acting as a team, the real battle began. The air was thick enough to choke on. Arthur stood his ground, eyes locked onto the nightmare that had torn his father away from the world. As the cinder drake fixed its predatory gaze on Godfrey, the command rang out, "Empower me!" Arthur's magic flared, surging into Godfrey and boosting his strength by 30% for 5 minutes. The beast knew something was very wrong. Arthur tossed the enchanted gargoyle plumes to his brother-in-arms. And Godfrey, fueled by sheer determination, launched himself at the monster. This wasn't just any beast. It was a tank with a massive pool of health. Taking down a creature like this usually required a small army of knights, attacking in perfect unison. But since they were alone, Godfrey relied on speed, delivering rapid, venomous slashes to weaken the brute. And man, it worked like a charm. Meanwhile, Arthur was raining arrows down, aiming straight for the beast's forehead. He knew this monster, he knew its secrets, and he knew exactly where it was weakest. Godfrey was just thankful for the backup, holding the line against a drake like this as a lone fighter. Pure suicide. Arrow after arrow flew as Godfrey struggled to keep the pressure on. Then, a shift. The drake buckled, looking like it might finally drop, but it didn't. It went berserk. Its defenses crumbled by 30%, but the heat radiating from its scales. It was like standing in the heart of a forge. Without missing a beat, 𝒊𝒅𝒏 charged back into the fire. Clutching the gargoyle plume, the drake lunged with everything it had but 𝒊𝒅𝒏. He blocked that massive strike with nothing but the feather. In its crazed state, the beast was vulnerable, and its weak point shifted to its front legs. Arthur saw the opening, letting an arrow fly while 𝒊𝒅𝒏 carved into the limb. The drake's scream was deafening. They were close, so incredibly close to ending this. The beast started to tremble, its energy spent, and for a heartbeat, everything went still. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 noticed the flames flickering out. It was on its last legs, critical condition. But those bastards regenerate fast. If they didn't end it now, the drake would be back to full strength in seconds. Arthur stared at the monster. This was the same horror that broke his father. He couldn't let it happen again. Now or never, Arthur roared. It was time for the final gambit. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 didn't hesitate. He became the bait, drawing the drake's fury for one last collision. The beast snapped its jaws down, but 𝒊𝒅𝒏's serrated blade caught it first. A brutal, precise counter-hit. It howled in agony. This was it, the perfect window. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 launched the plume high into the air. Arthur, don't you dare miss. The feather drifted, perfectly aligned with the drake's gaping maw. For Arthur, the world slowed to a crawl. He released. The shot was divine, hitting the plume dead center and driving it deep into the monster's throat. Everything went quiet as they waited to see if the plan would actually work. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 just started counting. 3, 2, 1, boom. An internal explosion of pure energy ripped the beast apart. Down goes the king. The duo of warriors had actually done it. That plume was the key, tripling all absorbed damage into one massive, fatal blast. The hunt was over. Later, Arthur and 𝒊𝒅𝒏 stood at the mountain's peak, waiting for the rest of their guild. Neither said a word. Then a voice broke the silence. Lady 𝒉𝒉 had found them. Arthur, are you hurt? He didn't answer. He just held out a broken blade. 𝒉𝒉's heart sank. She knew that sword. It belonged to their father. The truth hit her like a physical blow. The siblings collapsed into each other, 𝒉𝒉 whispering that he'd done enough. But Arthur shook his head. It was him, he muttered, pointing to 𝒊𝒅𝒏. The whole group turned to look at the man who'd saved them. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 was already busy, quietly digging a grave for the fallen knight. The others joined in, placing their father's sword atop the fresh earth. A final prayer was whispered into the wind. No more words were needed. The silence said it all. As they stood there, 𝒊𝒅𝒏's mind drifted back, remembering the day his own mother brought home the news that his father wasn't coming back. 𝒉𝒉 broke his trance, thanking him with everything she had. She tried to give Arthur a reason to smile again. But Arthur had changed. He saw his limits now, and he saw 𝒊𝒅𝒏 for what he truly was, a legendary knight. The rumors weren't just talk. Even the old shield-bearer gave him a nod of respect, but 𝒊𝒅𝒏, he just looked away. He snapped them back to reality, reminding the squad of their true mission. The archdemon Valerius still had to fall for Lady Anna to regain her stance, so the group pushed deeper into the scorched wastes. Low-level grunts tried to stop them, but with perfect teamwork, our heroes cut through them like butter. They reached the peak of Mount Ignes, searching for the threat, when suddenly, boom, a massive explosion rocked the summit out of nowhere. Through the smoke, the nightmare finally emerged. Valerius, a level 50 titan of pure malice. He let out a roar so deafening they had to cover their ears to keep their eardrums from shattering. The raw pressure, absolutely suffocating. Come to die, have you? The demon sneered. Alaric yelled for everyone to move. The first strike was coming. Lady Fiona knew he was right. Fall back, now, she screamed to the group. But Alaric, he didn't budge, not a single inch. He just stood there, looking at his new companions with total confidence while a storm of fire rained down on him. The heat was so intense, the others felt it even through their shields. Sir Arthur screamed out his name, but Alaric was gone, buried under a mountain of black smoke. Valerius laughed, thinking the boy was Ash, but then he felt a chill. Something was wrong. Why? Why were the boy's hands still casually in his pockets? Alaric just kept staring him down. See, he was rocking a massive buff from those 50 sacred birds he'd hunted earlier. Even an archdemon had to admit, this kid was different. Alaric kept poking the bear, insulting the demon without a shred of fear. The rest of the party, just watching in stunned silence. Even the master mage couldn't find words. Here's the catch. He only had 7 minutes of fire immunity. Even with the buff, his health bar was slowly ticking down from the sheer environment. He looked cool, sure, but inside, he was redlining pushed to the absolute limit. Time to get serious. He prepped his Godspeed skill, hand tightening on his blade. Valerius leaned in, grinning, and charged up his deadliest move. The air turned heavy. Every adventurer there felt the weight of impending doom. Hide, Fiona ordered, desperate to save them from the coming blast. Even with high-grade enchanted armor, one direct hit from Valerius was enough to end them all. Arthur watched from the shadows, mind blown. How was Alaric even standing in that? Not just standing, mocking him. He treated the archdemon like a minor nuisance. And it worked. Valerius was losing his cool, deciding to stop playing around. Alaric held his ground. The demon dived, sinking deep into the boiling lava of the crater. This was it. Alaric drew the serpent's fang, shifting his weight for close-quarters combat. Every move, every frame of the fight, he'd memorized the patterns in his mind from before. One specific attack was the deal-breaker. There it is. The special move came screaming at him, but Alaric didn't retreat. He blocked it head-on. Crack, the shockwave sent boulders flying like pebbles. The others could only watch, paralyzed. Valerius was actually impressed now. This human, he was starting to get interesting. The demon erupted from the magma, ready to tear him apart face to face. He launched into the sky, taunting the boy to try and block the next one. Fiona was frantic. She couldn't even tell where the voice was coming from. Arthur was panicking for his friend, but Alaric just stood there, calm, accepting the challenge. He closed his eyes. Suddenly, the demon's shadow loomed right behind the group. But Valerius only had eyes for Alaric, a total trap, but thanks to his high-tier mana perception. Alaric stepped aside, a smooth, effortless dodge that left everyone's jaws on the floor. Valerius kept swinging, relentless. "Great instincts, boy," he roared. Instincts? Hardly. It was pure muscle memory from a past life's worth of battles. The demon laughed it off. "Arrogance, you're just lucky," he spat. "You'll never touch me," he challenged. But Alaric, he just kept the insults coming, completely unfazed. He tracked the demon's mana signature, prepping a full-throttle counter. He'd done this 1,000,000 times before in his head. The demon blinked behind him again. Arthur tried to shout a warning, tried to help. But Alaric was gone. He vanished into thin air, reappearing high above his enemy in a freefall. Calm as a saint, deadly as the Reaper. He brought his blade down in a perfect, lethal arc. Blood sprayed. The demon had been cut. For the first time, he was actually hurt. Valerius stumbled, reeling in shock. Alaric just looked down with a smirk. "What's wrong, puppy? Still think I'm just lucky." Julian taunted the beast, declaring he wasn't about to retreat. Hearing that, the monster's rage just hit the ceiling. The surrounding knights were stunned by the sheer tension. Right then, the abyssal warden lunged, snarling that he'd finished Julian in a split second. Honestly, Julian didn't give a damn. He was just confused why a monster was talking about a mission, something that definitely didn't fit this world's lore. But hey, no time for deep thoughts when your life is on the line. Both of them braced for impact as the beast launched itself straight at the young knight. Bad move. Julian caught him off guard, driving his blade deep for a critical strike. That one. Yeah, the monster definitely felt it. The warden was losing it, trying to figure out how a mere boy could dodge his lethal strikes so effortlessly. Meanwhile, Julian was just over there celebrating that massive hit. Priorities, right. Suddenly, a magic window flashed. Lord Fenris was seriously poisoned. The beast roared, calling Julian's tactics a dirty, cowardly trick. Julian just shot back, telling the beast that coward fits someone who hunts the weak instead of facing a real warrior. Everyone watching was just paralyzed. stunned by the sheer level of Julian's combat skill. Lady Claire watched in disbelief, wondering how anyone could stand against a literal demon god all by themselves. Julian laughed, calling the boss a stupid mutt and telling him to enjoy the dirt because he was dying in 5 minutes flat. That did it. The beast's roar shook the earth, bellowing that Julian belonged 6 feet underground. The sheer pressure of that roar was insane. Adventurers nearby had to scramble just to keep from being blown away. They had to shield their eyes from the flying debris, unable to even get close to the center of the storm. Seeing the scale of the destruction, Commander Cedric ordered an immediate evacuation before things got even worse. Lady Alina bit her lip, hating that she could only watch the battle from the sidelines instead of helping. A massive blast of hellfire swept toward Julian, momentarily hiding him from view. But when the smoke cleared, our hero was still standing right there. Julian frowned, realizing that attack was way different than what was written in the ancient scriptures he knew. The warden growled, convinced that Julian was using some kind of forbidden detection magic to read his moves. Julian just shrugged. "Excuses don't change the fact that you're losing," the beast panted, eyes glowing as he prepped another strike. Then the heads started bragging, boasting about their noble lineage and where they crawled out from. That actually caught Julian off guard. His eyes widened as the crowd watched the scene in total silence. And then, the unthinkable. The warden literally split into 3 separate monsters. Even Julian was rattled. He'd never seen anything like this in all his training. But the monsters didn't give him a second to breathe. Julian was starting to get genuinely annoyed by these repetitive, mindless attacks. But he realized something. It didn't matter if there were 3 or 30. He could still predict every single move they made. The split monsters shouted in unison, declaring Julian would be their first victim. Julian just looked over his shoulder, completely unfazed. Suddenly, the boss surged forward, raining down a barrage of high-speed strikes. Now it was getting dicey. Julian's health was in the red, one single mistake and it's game over. He kept dodging, moving like a shadow to avoid being touched. One hit would be fatal. Instead of panicking, Julian actually started enjoying it. The beasts' heads kept taunting him, each one screaming something different. Julian stayed focused, face like stone, until a massive strike descended from the sky. The wolf snarled, "This is the end." The demon lunged from behind, jaws wide, ready to tear Julian apart. But then, boom, a massive explosion of ice shattered the air. A powerful spell slammed into the beast as a sorceress stepped onto the field, mocking the demon for needing a 3-on-1 advantage. It was the same mage from before, but now, she was wreathed in lightning and looking absolutely lethal. The warden snarled in frustration, barely able to keep his balance after that hit. He charged the mage in a blind rage, but Julian was faster, unleashing a devastating vorpal strike. Everyone saw it at the same time. One of the warden's heads went flying clean through the air. Julian was gasping for air, totally spent. "Let's wrap this up together," he told the mage. 2 heads to go. It was confirmed. The right head was officially down for the count. Lady Alina cheered, celebrating that small victory. Julian was physically drained, but the fire in his eyes hadn't faded. He knew they were close. But then, the remaining beast charged with pure, unadulterated hatred, screaming that Julian was a dead man for killing his brother. The beast's second head lunges toward the sorceress, roaring that he'll tear her into 1,000 pieces. Both warriors brace for the impact. Alistair asks if she truly masters ice magic. Lady Alara nods, explaining the secret. It is actually inverted pyromancy. The demon, Balgor, erupts in fury. He readies a point-blank blast of hellfire to incinerate them both where they stand. Our hero turns to Alara, the fire specialist. "Hold this position," he commands, "just a moment longer." Boom, skill activated, divine haste. In a blur of motion, Alistair vaults over the mage with incredible style. He dashes past the monster, driving his steel deep into its second chest before it can even blink. A system alert flashes. The left heart of the hellhound has been extinguished. Alastair breathes a sigh of relief. Thanks to the poison he applied, this phase ended much faster than expected. But it's not over. He glares at the boiling caldera, knowing the beast is hiding beneath the magma again. Stay sharp, he warns. As long as we watch for the next strike, we'll survive. 𝒊𝒅𝒅𝒏 steps forward, determined to give her all. She begins her chant, Solar Aegis. The spell infuses Alastair with massive fire resistance for 3 minutes. He's stunned. This buff is exactly what he needs for the final push. But there's a catch. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 warns that while the shield holds, her own magic is completely locked. Good luck, she whispers, retreating to safety. This is the very limit of my power. Alastair flashes a confident smile and dives headfirst back into the searing lava. Deep below, the beast is cowering. Its pride is shattered, its confidence drained by this lone human. The monster curses the mortals who brought it so low, swearing vengeance. But then, a voice echoes through the molten deep. A taunt. Right there, standing in the middle of the lava with his chest bare, is Alastair. The hellhound freezes in shock. How? How can a mere human survive the heart of a volcano? Our hero simply gestures for the monster to come and get some. The beast screams, "This is impossible," but Alastair doesn't wait for a reply as he readies his final strike. The villain can't believe it. To be defeated so humiliatingly by a common man, it's unthinkable. Before another word can escape, Alastair flashes past, slicing through him like fine silk. Suddenly, the volcano erupts like a massive geyser. Back on the surface, the other knights start to panic. Is the mountain finally blowing? That's not an eruption, 𝒊𝒅𝒏 says, eyes wide. That's Alastair. A shout from Kaelin confirms the madness. Alastair hauls himself out of the lava, absolutely spent. The team rushes over, terrified for their leader's life. Is it over? They ask, frantically preparing healing potions. Is the nightmare finally finished? Alastair nods with relief. 𝒊𝒅𝒏𝒅 is dead. 𝒊𝒅𝒏's father, the legendary fire mage, can finally rest in peace. A system window pings. The archdemon has fallen. Massive experience points acquired. He's leveling up, gold is pouring in. But wait, that wasn't the only reward. Loot drop, 𝒊𝒅𝒏𝒅's great talon and the massive fang. Finally, the artifacts he's been hunting are in his hands. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 tries to thank him, while the others admit they wouldn't have survived 5 minutes without his blade. In the end, everyone shares the gratitude, relieved to have made it out of that hellhole alive. Alastair waves it off. No favors needed, he says. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 adds that it was a team fight, the spoils belong to everyone. Everyone worked hard, he insists, making sure to praise the incredible buff 𝒊𝒅𝒏 gave him. Secretly, the sorceress knows the truth. With or without her help, Alastair would have conquered that beast. Finally, 𝒊𝒅𝒏 reveals her own prize, a B-rank rare item called the Emberstone, the highest grade she's ever found. Alastair's eyes light up. That's it, he shouts. I need that stone. He immediately offers to trade, holding out the legendary claws in exchange for her rock. The other knights are baffled. The rarity isn't even close. The claw is worth 10 times more than the stone. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 hesitates, questioning why he'd take such a loss. But Alastair is dead serious. He needs that stone. Seeing his joy, she decides to give it to him for free. Our hero is ecstatic, celebrating his prize like a child. The sorceress watches him with a smile, feeling a strange warmth from his pure happiness. Suddenly, a system window pops up. 𝒊𝒅𝒏 feels a slight attraction to Alastair, while Kaelin is drowning in envy. Awkward. But there's no time to get distracted by that. With the rare stone finally in his grasp, Caspian refocuses on his ultimate goal. One kingdom down, but the true challenge lies ahead as he sets his sights on the Tower of Aspiration in the Second Realm. Back at the capital of the First Kingdom, the rogue from the back alleys finally breaks his silence. The girl steps forward, explaining that they need to head back to the city to handle house affairs while their father is away on business. The young squire walks up to Caspian, promising that by the time they cross paths again, he'll have surpassed him in strength before offering a sincere thank you. With a confident smirk, our hero simply tells the kid he's looking forward to that day. He's finally bagged the infernal emberstone, the legendary material he trekked across the first realm to find. As he navigates the busy streets, he realizes that since he's already sent a heavy purse of gold back to his family, it's time to plot his next move. Moments later, he steps into the massive teleportation gate linking the first and second realms. The crowd starts whispering, was he really the legendary knight who brought down the archdemon? Another onlooker scoffs, arguing there's no way a hero of that caliber would be wearing such basic, low-tier gear. Suddenly, a golden screen flickers to life before his eyes, granting him a legendary title, the first Archdemon Slayer. The system asks if he's ready to jump to the second realm. Without a second thought, he hits yes, and the teleportation light engulfs him. One of the gossiping peasants stands there in total shock, watching him vanish, while his friend insists he's just seeing things. Caspian arrives in the heart of the second realm's capital, the notorious city of vice. Right then, his crystal starts glowing. It's a call from his sister. He picks up, asking what's wrong, but she sounds completely baffled that he's even asking. She starts shouting through the line, demanding to know where on earth he is, and how he managed to send such an insane amount of gold home. She's convinced he's gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd, and honestly, Caspian starts sweating a little. He's been keeping this whole legendary adventurer thing a total secret from his mother and sister to keep them from worrying. Calling his sister his second mother, he tries to calm her down, swearing on his life that he hasn't done anything illegal to get the coin. But then, her voice drops. She tells him their mother's condition has taken a turn for the worse. The news hits him like a physical blow. A while later, Caspian sits alone on a stone bench, heart racing as he realizes he needs a massive fortune for her treatment, and he needs it now. Suddenly, he overhears a group of noble sons nearby discussing an upcoming auction for the High Elf's grace. Caspian tunes in immediately, his eyes narrowing as he listens to the conversation. He checks his system and confirms the rumors. That rare ingredient is the key to brewing the elixir that can cure his mother's terminal illness. The problem? It's being auctioned off to the wealthiest lords in the realm, meaning the price will easily hit hundreds of millions of crowns. That's it. Decision made. He needs to skyrocket his capital by any means necessary. A short time later, deep within a rank E dungeon called the Frostbound Wastes, Caspian decides that high-level raiding is his only ticket to fast cash. But this frozen hellscape is home to a specific legend. Sensing a powerful presence, he spots a level 66 siren named Lyra. Watching her sing among the ice, he whispers that he's finally tracked her down. Time to bring out the special loot he's been saving. A mystical feline companion nearby looks startled, and more importantly, absolutely famished. To win it over, Caspian presents a bottle of vintage silver wine and a plate of fresh Highland fish. He even lays out a premium, velvet-lined bed for the little creature. Totally won over, the cat tosses a glowing gold sovereign into the air. This isn't just any coin. It's a legendary artifact that doubles all gold earned just by having it in your pocket. Seeing the cat offer up the treasure, Caspian gives a quick nod of thanks. He knew it. This was a hidden reward that only unlocks for those who can actually satisfy the cat's expensive tastes. With the multiplier active, it's time to hunt. Caspian wastes no time and dives straight into the fray. He tears through waves of monsters, watching his fortune double with every kill. Once the dungeon boss hits the floor, he knows he's finally made a dent in his goal. His total now sits at 1,264,000 crowns. It's a start, but he needs to head back to the city to really blow those numbers up. Later that night, he finds himself in an elite gambling hall where the city's greediest players are losing their shirts at the card tables. He scans the room, seeing nothing but men obsessed with gold and power. Caspian realizes he doesn't need to hold back here. Suddenly, a raucous laugh echoes through the hall. A bald noble brags about another massive win, but Caspian's system pings with a red alert. Fraud detected. This guy has cheated his way to 10 million crowns already. Realizing he's looking at a professional con artist, Caspian starts planning exactly how he's going to turn the tables. The bald man looks up, noticing a new challenger standing at his table. Smirking, he tells the kid that luck is on his side tonight, so he better not tuck tail and run when his pockets start getting light. Caspian plays it cool, acting like a total amateur and claiming he'll just learn the rules as they go along. The cheater is practically licking his chops, telling the boy he can take the second turn and even set the starting bet himself. Suddenly, the oracle's prompt flickers a warning. That thug's partner is a dirty cheat, too. They're playing the Queen's Gambit, a game where 2 spheres roll and you pick 2 lucky numbers. Hit just one, you take home half the pot. But hit both, you double your gold. If everyone misses, the game just keeps spinning. Alistair steps up, cold as ice, and makes his call, red 36 and black 8. Then comes the kicker. He drops a massive bet of 10 million sovereigns. The entire hall goes dead silent. Noticing the stunned looks, Alistair just smirks. "Did I stutter?" He repeats it, louder this time. Red 36, black 8, 10 million gold. He turns the heat on the bald thug, demanding he pick his numbers right now. Because once those spheres settle, it's an automatic loss. And just like that, boom, Alistair hits the mark perfectly, leaving the house's plants in absolute shock. With a sharp, icy smile, Alistair tells them the spheres are about to stop. The bald thug is sweating bullets now, screaming at his partner to hurry up and make a move. Little do they know, Alistair is 10 steps ahead and sees right through their little game. He knows the trafficker's job is to be the hunter, but Alistair's own skill, divine precision, gives him a 100% hit rate. Every single time. "Watch," he says casually. "It's coming up again, red 36, black 8. Their pathetic strategy was simple. Get close to a skill user and relay the numbers to the hitter. Too bad they picked the wrong target. The thug starts losing it, screaming nonsense and accusing Alistair of cheating, while his buddy frantically calls for the floor manager. "He's a fraud," he shouts, pointing a trembling finger. That's when the manager steps in, inviting the boy outside for a little private chat. Alistair isn't stupid. He sees the look in the man's eyes. The manager is definitely part of the scam. Suddenly, the mustached overseer signals his goons to move in. But Alistair is faster, flipping a heavy oak table right into the faces of the thugs. Some idiot tries to grab him from behind, but without even breaking a sweat. Alistair puts him to sleep with one brutal strike. The crowd is reeling, but then a red-headed knight draws a bow and lets an arrow fly straight for him. Meanwhile, the bald thug is still barking about cheating while charging in. Alistair just steps aside, lets him whiff, and levels him with a devastating kick. Alistair grabs the guy and hurls him right into the archer. "Is that it?" he asks. "Who's next?" Both the manager and his staff are frozen in pure terror. A blonde employee whispers that he looks exactly like the rookie from the news, the one who shattered the record for the holy rite of initiation. "Is it really him?" the man gasps. "Someone mentions he's already reached the Iron Continent. Does that mean he's already slain the archdemon Hellmarrow?" Alistair couldn't care less about their gossip. "Are we doing this or not?" he asks. "Hurry up and try to kick me out." The manager's knees buckle instantly, and he starts begging for forgiveness, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. He knows if the rumors are true, they don't stand a ghost of a chance against him. He tries to play it cool, hoping he can still manipulate the brat, but the boy, now going by Jeffrey, just glares with an aura so thick it's suffocating. "Compensate me," he growls. He marches toward the vault, ordering them to show him every single sovereign in the building. And he doesn't stop there. He demands the invitation to the High Citadel auction, too. He knows their dirty secrets, and this is the price for his silence. One word to the High Guard, and this place is history. The manager has no choice but to fold. Later, at the grand auction hall, Alistair is sitting on a mountain of gold. Not as much as he hoped, but it'll do. This is his one shot. If he misses out on the Sylvan drop now, who knows when it'll surface again. He's ready to outbid every noble in the room. Back at the gambling den, the manager is literally in tears. That brat cleaned them out. He took everything. But then, a shadow falls over him. The branch master has finally arrived. At the auction podium, the announcer reveals that the branch master himself is overseeing the sale of 11 legendary treasures. He promises items of incredible rarity, all verifiable through the oracle's status window. First up, a greenskin greatsword starting at 2 million. But Alistair's eyes are on the prize. He needs 3 specific ingredients for his mother's cure. He's hunting for the 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 and the ancient crimson Baroque core. He spots them on the list and smirks. This is perfect. He's going to save so much time. Then something catches his eye, Regal King's draft. If he snags that, he can craft his hidden gear way ahead of schedule. The 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 comes up, and Alistair casually tosses out a bid for 1 million. But then, someone slams down a bid for 10 million sovereigns. The whole room gasps. Even Alistair is stunned. 10 million for a 𝒑𝒑. He looks over and realizes the bidder is none other than that salty casino manager. That man just starts laughing, wondering if the little brat's actually happy now. Our hero, Julian Sterling, is just confused. Did that manager really think he just handed over everything he asked for? He's got his eyes on the prize. The crown of the High Elves is definitely going to be the grand finale, and there's no way he's letting this chance slip through his fingers. For now, he's playing it cool. No bids, not yet. And just like that, the frostbite dagger is snatched up by the Serpent's Talon Knightly Order. You can feel the tension in the room. Everyone else is starting to whisper, and honestly, they're getting pretty nervous. Julian already knew that guy was a high-ranking member of the Serpent's Talon. One quick look into his mind was all it took. But even he didn't realize they had this much pull in the capital. Then Sir Alistair, the blonde auctioneer, asks if that's the kid they were looking for, and the manager just gives a cold nod. He's visibly fuming. He starts ranting about how Julian supposedly stole a noble invitation just to show his face in a place like this. The branch master, Duke Thorn, tells the manager it's time to teach this boy a lesson. Next up, Ancient Crimson or Julian drops a bid of 50 million right out of the gate. Even the auctioneer's jaw drops at that one. But wait, the manager immediately counters with a bid 4 times higher, 200 million gold. Julian expected a bit of a struggle, sure, but 200 million for some ore. That's absolutely insane. Suddenly, his intuition pings. A malicious intent warning pops up. These guys aren't even trying to buy stuff anymore. They're just bidding to screw him over as revenge. This is bad. If they keep driving up the prices like this, Julian's never going to have enough left for the crown. He needs to pivot. Fast. He's got to find a way to flip the script on these guys. He starts throwing out bids on random items, just testing the waters, but the manager outbids him every single time. It's like he's obsessed. At this point, the rest of the room has gone quiet. It's a straight-up war between Julian and the guild, and the narrator notes that nobody else can even get a word in. Then, the manager just bursts out laughing. He mocks him, asking if a little nobody really thought he could outspend a great house. "You're an absolute idiot," he sneers. But Julian, he just grins right back. "Actually," he says, "the real idiot here is you." Moments later, the auctioneer steps up for the big one. The final item of the night, the crown of the High Elves. This is the legendary treasure everyone's been waiting for. The opening bid, a cool 50 million gold. Boom, Julian goes straight to 500 million. 10 times the starting price. The whole room goes dead silent. People are literally shaking. Julian's feeling it now. He's confident. This is the moment he's been waiting for, and he's not letting go. The manager is absolutely livid. He thinks he can just do what he's been doing all night, so he tells his team to double it. He shouts out 1 billion gold, but before he can even celebrate, Sir Alistair holds up a hand. "Wait just a second," he says. Here's the kicker. Members of the Serpent's Talon are officially barred from bidding on this item. Julian just starts laughing his head off. Looking a bit awkward, the blonde auctioneer apologizes and informs them that the manager has already hit his maximum bid limit for the night. Apparently, there's a rule. No single bidder can win more than 5 items, and the guild. Yeah, they already hit that limit with those revenge bids. The manager is losing his mind. He's stammering, screaming about what kind of garbage rule that is. He claims he's been here a dozen times and never heard of it, but Alistair shuts him down. This is a special royal auction, approved directly by the King's Adventurers Association. It's a hidden and unusual scenario, something that rarely ever triggers. But the rule against manipulating rare items is absolute. No exceptions. Julian realized the manager had no clue he'd walked right into a special event. The guy is literally shaking with rage now, while Duke Thorn just sits there in icy silence. "Sold," the blonde announces, slamming the gavel down with a satisfying bang. He congratulates Julian, calling him the hero with the halo, and confirms he's won the crown. Julian's just like, "Please, let's not use that name." The manager is absolutely possessed by fury now. He realizes Julian knew the rules the entire time. He played them like a fiddle. He starts gathering mana for a spell, swearing that this won't end like that time he got kicked out of the casino. He's ready for blood. Julian just stands up, cool as ice. "If you want to do this, take it outside," he says. "Don't bring innocent people into your mess." He looks the old manager dead in the eye and tells him to drop the spell right now if he knows what's good for him. But the man is too far gone. He thinks if he just fires now, he can end that brat once and for all. That's when the Duke steps in. Thorn tells him Julian is right. If they start a riot here, the King's Guard will hunt them down. The subordinate tries to talk back, but one look from the Duke says everything. "We're leaving." No arguments. They head for the door. A little while later, Julian realizes that the guild actually did him a favor. Sure, they grabbed a few items, but those are basically being delivered straight to him anyway. Not a bad haul. He's still a bit bummed about losing that King's vintage wine, though. As he's grumbling to himself, someone suddenly walks up and calls him peculiar. It's a girl, and she's staring right at the glowing halo above his head. She's never seen anything like it. She's curious, very curious. She asks what exactly his deal is with the Serpent's Talon, and if he's actually got a history with Duke Thorn himself. She points him out, that long-haired man lurking near the governor. He is the master of the Midlands branch of the Crimson Viper Syndicate. Julian tells her he has some business to settle with that guild, then asks who the hell she actually is. She claims she's just an adventurer, but right then, a magic scroll notification reveals the truth. Lady Myra is on a top-secret mission from the Warden's League to investigate the Vipers. Julian is completely caught off guard. He realizes this isn't just a random job. She must be one of the 8 High Sentinels, the legendary S-rank knights officially recognized by the Crown. These elites only take on royal requests in exchange for massive hoards of gold and rare treasures. Remembering this makes Julian feel a bit nostalgic, thinking back to the days when he'd take those high-stakes missions just to kill some time. He explains that the targets have already bolted, and Myra prepares to hunt them down, but she stops to ask one more thing. Her entire demeanor shifts as she stares intensely at his head, asking where on earth he found that thing floating above him. Julian is stunned. Does she seriously not know about hidden artifacts? Playing it dumb, he just asks, "What, you mean this thing?" Then his system chimes in. It turns out his bizarre equipment has just triggered Myra's inner gear geek. She thinks the angel's halo is absolutely adorable and wants one for herself. Julian feels super awkward being stared at like a prize and asks what her problem is. Nervous, he tells her it's a long, complicated story that would take all night. Myra just brushes it off, saying it doesn't matter. She'll just figure it out on her own later. With a quick thanks, she disappears into the shadows. Watching her leave, Julian knows one thing for sure. Just from that brief vibe check, she's likely the deadliest of the 8 High Sentinels. Meanwhile, Myra is baffled. She's traveled across 7 kingdoms and has never seen a piece of gear like that halo before. As they both head their separate ways, they can't help but wonder who the other person really is. A massive full moon hangs over the Midlands battlefield, as a deafening explosion rocks an A-rank dungeon, leaving the land looking like a lunar wasteland. A vision appears. The level 80 giant goblin boss has been completely obliterated. Julian loots the corpse and finds a thick, stitched-up greenish glove, the legendary goblin thief's gauntlet. The effect is insane. If an opponent is knocked out, you have a chance to snatch an item straight out of their inventory and keep it. Julian mutters that grinding for levels in this area is a breeze. But he needs to snag one more specific piece of gear before moving on. He's going to need it to borrow some items from other knights. In the distance, he spots his targets: a knight in heavy plate armor and a short, suspicious man in a fine suit. Julian needs that gauntlet to steal a bottle of the 𝑭𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 wine, the final, crucial ingredient for his next secret artifact recipe. He's been tracking these two with tracking magic for a while now, just waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Hidden in the back, Myra is watching, wondering if Julian is also hunting her targets. She's even questioning if our hero might actually be a secret member of the Crimson Viper Syndicate. But before anyone can move, the knight and the businessman slip into the fortress through a hidden passageway. The moon that lit up the carnage earlier now shines over a beautiful field of glowing white flowers. A notification pops up. Hidden location: the private sanctuary of the Crimson Viper Syndicate. The businessman looks nervous, asking the knight if this investment is actually going to pay off. After a cold silence, the knight just grunts that it might be worth a few coins. The suit-wearing guy starts babbling eagerly, saying this will definitely boost the knight's profits and speed everything up. Suddenly, Julian appears right behind the short man, casually asking if he's into gardening as a hobby. With a cheeky wave and a mischievous smirk, Julian stands there holding a flower. Looking like some kind of flirting angel, everyone freezes in shock, staring at him and wondering how the hell he got past the guards. Julian calls it out immediately. This flower, the lunar bloom, is used to make illegal alchemical drugs. The whole room goes tense. Unfazed, Julian continues, explaining that growing these plants is a serious crime strictly forbidden by the Warden's League. The businessman starts stammering, trying to come up with a pathetic excuse. The knight stays quiet for a second before breaking the silence, asking Julian if he's some kind of rat working for the League. Julian just mocks him. He's not with them, he just wants that 𝑭𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔 wine. Hand it over and he'll keep his mouth shut. The businessman absolutely loses it, screaming curses and death threats at Julian. He immediately lunges into an attack, conjuring massive bolts of black and purple lightning. But in a literal blink, Julian is behind him. Total speed blitz. Myra, watching from afar, can barely even track what's happening because he's moving so fast. Julian just gives a mocking little laugh, saying he didn't come here for a fight. All Julian wanted was a fair price for the vintage, but this thug thinks he's the boss. Instead of a deal, the subordinate pulls a dagger on him, threatening Julian like a common thief. Big mistake. Now, Julian isn't usually one to snitch, but if these guys won't play ball, he'll have to drag the Royal Association into this mess and report their asses. That sets them off. This short, angry Burke loses his cool and lunges at Julian, aimed right for the throat with his blade. Julian, he doesn't even blink. He sidesteps the amateur move and delivers a brutal palm strike to the guy's neck, knocking him out cold before he even hits the floor. Lady Alara, watching from the shadows, is absolutely floored by his skill, and she's dying to know what kind of weird weapon he's carrying. Meanwhile, the lead knight actually starts enjoying this, throwing out some sarcastic praise for Julian's guts. But then the mood shifts. The knight draws his own steel, eyes turning cold as he declares that the kid gloves are officially coming off. Right on cue, a system window flickers into existence. Time to see what we're actually up against. Lord Simon 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔, Stormdrake Syndicate, 2nd Continent Commander, level 97 warrior. Julian just grins, feeling the hype as he readies himself for the real fight. Alara is completely hooked now, her eyes glued to Julian's strange weapon and every single twitch of his muscles. Two fighters, one moonlit arena. They lock eyes for a split second before, boom, They both vanish into a blur of motion. It's Julian versus Simon, and it's on. Their blades collide with a thunderous asterisk crack that echoes right through the center of the arena. Julian quickly realizes Simon's level is way higher than his own, and the intensity just skyrockets. Simon's swordplay is a total blur, a dazzling, deadly light show that's hard to even track. Our boy starts to realize this isn't just another night. His opponent is a beast. Julian sharpens his focus, his stance tightening as he realizes one wrong move means death. Alara doesn't look away for even a second, her gaze fixed on the carnage. She'd heard the rumors about Julian's combat skills, sure, but she notes that when it comes to raw, crushing power, Simon is on an entirely different level. The pressure is real. As the fight heats up, Simon lands a heavy blow that sends Julian skidding back across the stone floor. The knight acknowledges that Julian has talent, but he's still arrogant as hell, sneering that the kid doesn't have a prayer of winning this. He mocks Julian for acting like some fairy tale protagonist, scoffing that in the real world, heroes don't just magically get stronger to beat the villain. But Julian, he just looks him in the eye and tells him he doesn't care about being a hero, and he doesn't care about dying. He has a goal and nothing, literally nothing, is stopping him. Simon, insulted by the brat's talk, roars and charges forward with his massive greatsword. Julian is under fire now. He's forced into a desperate defensive shell, getting pushed further and further back by the sheer weight of the attacks. But then Simon feels it. A strange, cold shiver, like something's about to go horribly wrong. In a heartbeat, the warrior freezes and Alara's jaw hits the floor. They both see the impossible. Julian is parrying and dodging every single one of Simon's strikes, with his eyes completely shut. Simon is freaking out. Is this some kind of high-level magic or a hidden ability? He's never seen anything like it in his entire life. Julian, however, just lets out a tiny, confident smirk and starts pressing the attack. Their blades clash one more time, but with a surgical flick of his wrist, Julian deflects Simon's massive sword like it's made of wood. Ding, the system window pops up. Herald of the Fallen, third ability unlocked. The notification confirms that the brutal conditions for the new skill have finally been met. To get this, Julian had to master the art of the perfect parry, blending the experience from his nightmare fight with the demon god into this duel. Skill level, maxed out. Julian thinks to himself that grinding for that extra experience before this fight was the best move he ever made. He's feeling pretty lucky about the level up, but then he gets cocky. Out of nowhere, a strike hits him hard from the blind spot. Simon moves with terrifying ease, landing a hit that Julian didn't even see coming. The knight's sword plunges straight through Julian's chest, and life essence starts spraying everywhere. Simon just laughs, mocking Julian for dropping his guard at the worst possible moment. "Welcome to the real world," Simon sneers. "There's always someone better than you." But suddenly, Simon feels a presence, right behind him. Julian appears out of thin air, whispering in his ear, "So, tell me again, who's the better man here?" Simon is losing his mind. He just watched the kid die. How is he standing there without a scratch? While the villain is busy having a mental breakdown, our hero just stands there, looking down on him with total superiority. And before he even knows what hit him, the knight feels a familiar agony. He gets sliced from behind, receiving the exact same wound he thought he'd dealt Julian. As Simon falls into a full-blown panic, the truth comes out. He's been trapped in an illusion this whole time. This is the third power of the Herald. The Phantasm Garden. The system explains this ability locks the enemy in a world of imaginary nightmares, but it comes with a heavy 72-hour cooldown. Julian starts a speech about who's truly the powerhouse here, but then he surprises everyone. He gives that title to the woman hiding in the shadows. Alara is stunned that the kid actually sensed her, but she manages to keep her composure. Julian tells her he's not looking for trouble and only cares about his goal, before dropping the bombshell that he knows she's a spy for the Royal Association. But he's not leaving without a little souvenir for his trouble. He uses his Shadow Snatcher gauntlet to swipe the villain's prize, Regal Dragon Mead, S-rank rarity. Finally cooling off with the loot, he just hopes the next fight is a bit easier. The lady spy was absolutely livid after that stunt Arthur pulled, but for some reason, she actually let him walk away. Once he was gone, she started piecing together exactly how that crazy move he just used actually worked. She figured it had to be a gear-based skill, but there was one problem. The Knights Association didn't have those items on record, meaning this hero was definitely someone special. Our boy finally made it to the southern continent, the land of the great kingdoms. Arthur headed straight for his private forge to craft a new masterpiece using that rare wine, but he was greeted by two very angry men standing right in his way. Those two stomped out of the workshop screaming like toddlers having a total meltdown, while Arthur just stood there with a smug little grin on his face. The moment he stepped inside, he had to dodge a hail of flying hammers and tongs, flashing a very awkward smile as he ducked for cover. And there he was, the living legend himself, Master Blacksmith 𝒊𝒅𝒏𝒅𝒅𝒏. The old master started hurling insults, swearing he'd never forge another blade for the hero again. Arthur tried to play it cool, but 𝒊𝒅𝒏𝒅𝒅𝒏 wasn't hearing it, at least not until Arthur revealed the rarest vintage in the entire realm. That did the trick. The blacksmith's eyes lit up instantly, and his grumpy mood vanished into pure excitement. Seeing he finally had the upper hand, Arthur started teasing the old man, which earned him a few quick slaps to the back of the head. As he handed over the wine, Arthur's mind was already racing toward his ultimate endgame. It was a quest from the system: deliver the Ember Stone, a legendary rank item that would change his fate forever. Finally, the two sat down for a real heart-to-heart. The old smith started pouring some drinks and venting about his long, difficult life to our protagonist. But Arthur was locked in. He didn't care about the stories, he just wanted that secret rank equipment. 𝒊𝒅𝒏𝒅𝒅𝒏 eventually finished his rant, and Arthur crashed for the night, only to wake up the next morning to incredible news. The item was finished. Arthur now held the Striders of 𝒊𝒅𝒅𝒅, a pair of black boots pulsing with a strange blue energy. Secret rank. They came with 3 insane powers: Wind Step, Stormblink, and a third mystery skill the system was keeping hidden for now. Hyped up, our hero set off for his next target, the Citadel of Mercy. Just as he was leaving, the blacksmith tossed him a bottle of Noble's Essence, a high-rank, non-alcoholic brew. Seriously, I have no idea what a non-alcoholic spirit even is. That's like saying dry water, but hey, the story says it's a thing, so whatever. The two shared a friendly goodbye, with the old master wishing our boy the best of luck on his journey. Location: the S-rank dungeon at the Citadel of Mercy. Arthur stepped into the frozen fortress alongside a small band of elite knights. The cold was so intense he felt like his blood was turning to ice, so he decided to chug that special brew to survive the pressure. And would you believe it? It worked perfectly. A wave of warmth hit him, and the buff was set to last for nearly 2 full hours. The other knights started mocking him, pointing at his light clothing and calling him an absolute moron for coming here so unprepared. Arthur just ignored the haters, arguing with his system interface, because he knew he only had a 2-hour window to clear this place. That's the hard limit for this dungeon. If you stay 1 second past the timer, you lose half of everything you're carrying. He winced, remembering the times he'd failed the clock and had to grind all over again, but suddenly, he sensed a massive surge of magic. He realized the castle was already crawling with other adventurers. He needed to find the archdemon Alaric as fast as possible. Meanwhile, deeper in the fortress, 2 other knights were struggling just to breathe in a massive blizzard. They could barely move through the snow when they came face to face with a glacier hare, a level 82 monster. They drew their steel for a desperate fight, but were suddenly interrupted by Arthur, who literally sailed over their heads in one massive leap. Everyone just froze in total shock, including the monster, which had absolutely no idea what it just saw. Arthur was feeling incredible, like he was flying through a dream. This was the wind step power at work, but he couldn't relax for long. 2 more glacier hares lunged out of the snow to ambush him, but honestly, level 82 is basically child's play for him now. Arthur carved through them like they were nothing but air. The nearby knights were left stunned, wondering who this mysterious boy could be. When they noticed the faint halo above his head, they came to a brilliant conclusion. He must be a restless ghost who can't find peace. And I kid you not, the two men and the rabbit monster actually started praying together to bless his tormented soul. Arthur heard every single word with his enhanced hearing and swore he'd delete the system if it dared to mention this embarrassing moment. Finally, the archdemon Alaric's throne room. We're here. Arthur started bragging about making it there in just 5 minutes, but his jaw dropped when he saw that same lady spy already standing there. He realized she was probably on the hunt for a secret rank item of her own. The woman suddenly forced a path into the inner sanctum, leaving Arthur speechless. It wasn't a hidden switch. She literally ripped the door open with her bare hands. He figured he was lucky. She did the hard work for him, but then a whole pack of glacier hares appeared to block his path. But Arthur didn't even blink. He just ignored them all and activated his second secret ability. Arcane blinking. Alaric surges as close as he can to the archfiend, but the path forward hits a dead end at the 9th level of the spire. There is a blood price to pay. He has to take down the warden of this floor before the way opens. Our hero can't help but smirk, bragging about setting a new speed record for reaching this depth so fast. But as the heavy stone doors slam shut behind him, the knights on the 7th floor of 𝑭𝒊𝒅𝒔 are paralyzed with fear as their own commander turns on them. That commander is 𝑭𝒊𝒅𝒅𝒅𝒆𝒏, and he is stone cold. He claims he is purging them because they are too slow and just clogging up his path, a master swordsman with a heart of ice. With one blurred movement of his blade, Cedric slices clean through a subordinate's jaw before the man can even blink. He's just annoyed. He mutters that they will be the ones to blame when half his gold is seized as punishment for this little incident. The villain readies his next strike, calling the others completely worthless and deciding they are better off in the ground. In the end, it's a total massacre. The swordsman cuts them down one by one as they beg for mercy. Cedric spares a single terrified soldier, screaming in his face and demanding intel on the hidden supplies and reinforcements. The poor kid can only stammer out that he is doing the best he can to keep up. Cedric swings his steel menacingly, sending the boy sprinting away, promising he will bring exactly what his lord requires. Here is the twist. Slaughtering other adventurers actually increases his time inside the spire. So, that is the villain's sick plan moving forward. Lord Cedric curses his luck, lamenting that his ally Silas was captured by that girl from the High Council, which throws a massive wrench in his future schemes. But he is not sweating it yet. In this place, the spire's ticking clock acts as his ultimate shield. The citadel of valor truly is a breathtaking sight to behold. Alaric keeps pushing forward, shattering every monster in his way while talking up his new enchanted gear. The mobility it gives him is unreal, but he is also feeling a bit on edge. There is a massive pressure of magic weighing down from above. That power, it feels even heavier than the archfiend himself. Our protagonist clears the path without breaking a sweat until he finally comes face to face with the middle warden. A hidden door swings open, and that council spy is still lurking right there. Alaric ducks into the shadows, realizing he almost forgot about the woman, but that second massive mana signature finally makes sense. The silver-haired woman finds the silence eerie. 0 monsters, until 2 massive frost golems erupt from the ice to crush her. These golems are the middle wardens. Lady Alara stays perfectly calm and performs a high-tier summoning, calling forth Sylphid. Even for a high summoner, pulling off a move like this requires a staggering amount of magical essence. And she is in a hurry. She obliterates the monsters with one synchronized strike from her spirit. Energy swirls around the golems until she simply closes her fist, and they both explode into dust. Alaric is floored by the sheer power this woman is packing. He notes that she is operating on a completely different level than everyone else. Once the middle warden falls, a door of solid ice is revealed. This is the final call for the battle against the archfiend. The woman does not waste a second and steps inside with total composure. Alaric realizes she is hunting for someone specific and figures he is lucky she does not care about the archfiend's head. Right then, the girl senses our hero's presence, but when she whips around to look, he has already vanished into thin air. She chalks it up to her imagination and focuses back on the goal. Finally, Alaric stands face to face with the final boss of the keep. It is a nightmare of a monster, surrounded by the frozen corpses of every adventurer who tried to challenge it before. Alaric gives the beast a casual greeting, just as his arcane sight flares to life. The second archfiend, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔, rank 100. His polar death shroud aura instantly saps 20% of our hero's strength. The frost blue monster just cackles, looking at Alaric like he is nothing more than a fresh battery. Back below, a knight is on his knees, pleading for his life in front of Lord Cedric. Cedric just tells him to shut his mouth and accept his end. He swings his blade with lethal speed, but before it can connect, someone parries the strike. It is the spy who has been tracking him through the spire this whole time. Now Cedric has a legendary opponent to deal with, along with 3 great elementals: Undine of the Tides, Ifrit of the Flame, and Sylph of the Gale. The woman prepares for war. Cedric is stunned that she can command 3 spirits at once and immediately barks, demanding to know who she is. Her name is Lady Alara Frost. As one of the 8 guardians of the High Council, she is here to put him in the dirt. Switching back to our hero, the arcane sight informs us that the 3rd hidden ability of his blade has been unlocked. The boss is absolutely livid that a mere human is standing his ground. He roars and threatens Alaric, swearing he will grind him into fine powder, bone by bone, before shifting into his true form. He sprouts massive wings of ice, laughing as he shows off his aerial maneuvers. But Alaric is not intimidated, not even a little, because now he can fly too. He literally mocks the beast. "The view from up here, absolutely stunning," he says, hovering directly over the monster's head. Talk about a power move. The demon is stunned, wondering just how long this hero can stay so incredibly calm in the face of death. Next, the beast pulls out its trump card, a massive ice trident called Frostrend, unleashing a relentless, high-speed barrage on our hero. But Alistair, he's cool as a cucumber. Without breaking a sweat, he just mutters, "Serpent's 3rd right, liquefy." And here's the cool part. Liquefy turns his blade into a flowing liquid state, meaning it can take literally any shape he can imagine. The monster starts gloating, thinking Alistair is just running away, right until a massive, precise sword strike cleaves him in half. Game over. The abyssal venom gate has opened. The second Dark Lord, 𝒊𝒏𝒅𝒔, has been wiped from the map, and Alistair did it with an hour and 21 minutes to spare. A new record for the kingdom. A knight who was barely clinging to life nearby. Can't believe his luck that Alistair saved him just in time. Plus, our boy just snagged a rare drop, the Winterdrake tusk. Now, only the primal red clay remains. It's the final piece he needs to craft the elixir and save his mother. Suddenly, the entire castle starts shaking. It's a total war zone between a spy and a swordsman. The woman, Lady Alara, chants, "Phantom Inferno." A literal tower of flames erupts, screaming toward the villain like a heat-seeking missile. But the guy, he just flicks his sword and deflects it. Alara doesn't miss a beat, though, instantly casting Raging Torrent. Before the water can even touch Lord Vane, he's already sliced through her elemental spirits with terrifying speed. Alistair watches the chaos from the shadows, realizing this fight is causing the tremors. He wonders if this swordsman was part of the royal order too. Vane just sneers at her, telling Alara she's an absolute disgrace to her title as guardian. Then he cranks it up a notch. A massive orange hurricane starts swallowing everything in sight. The wind is insane, pushing Alara back, but just as he's about to land the killing blow, she's already gone. She moved so fast, she left an afterimage behind, leaving Vane standing there looking like a complete idiot. She doesn't hold back either, telling him that he was a fool to choose this path, and now she's going to show him what a real attack looks like. Spirit summon. Enter Fulgur, the storm spirit. Picture a majestic mix of a dragon, a horse, and a wolf. We're talking yellow lightning arcing everywhere and electric blue fire for fur. Absolutely legendary. Vayne is terrified. He starts begging for his life, but Alara just cold stares him. Did he stop when his victims pleaded? Not a chance. She finishes him with Wrath of the Thunder God. A massive pillar of electricity crashes down, and just like that, he's toast. A pathetic end for a pathetic man. Alistair notes that having her as an enemy would be a total nightmare. And then she spots him. Talk about an awkward moment. Luckily, she doesn't care. As long as he stays out of her mission's way, he's free to watch the show. But Alistair is curious. What's her real mission, and why is she hunting this shadowy association? Our hero clears the air, explaining he already took out the Dark Lord, which is why the evil energy vanished. They say their goodbyes, with Alara hinting they'll cross paths again. Next stop, the High Council of Knights. Alara successfully hauls the criminal back and throws him straight into the iron cage. The Vice-Chancellor is impressed. He thanks her, saying this will definitely make other criminals think twice. But the princess, she's intrigued. She's got her eye on this mysterious adventurer. And finally, we hit the Third Kingdom. Alistair is pumped. Only one Dark Lord left to crush, but he's got a massive problem. His sword is on its last legs. If he tries to fight the final boss like this, the blade will shatter into a million pieces. Time for a new secret weapon. But first, he needs a place to crash for the night. He asks the innkeeper for 2 specific rooms. It's a code. They exchange a knowing look. And the receptionist gives him the green light to use the secret entrance. It's a hidden passage leading straight to an underground fight club where we meet the legendary heavyweight, Mike, the Hammer Sterling. The guy is a total showboat, and honestly, Alistair thought he was just a joke at first. But turns out, he's the real deal, a total nightmare in the ring. To get his hands on that new weapon, Alistair has to take him down. The narrator shouts, Sterling versus Alistair. Rules are simple. No weapons allowed, and the whole thing has to end in 3 minutes. Standard boxing rules apply. First person to hit 10 points takes the win. The bell rings. Ding. Sterling wastes no time, pinning Alistair against the ropes with his insane reach. Arthur's tiny compared to Lord Michael. He's dancing, weaving, just barely avoiding those mountain-crushing fists. But check this out, Arthur's already read him. Slow speed. Check, predictable wind-up, double check, dodging, piece of cake. Man, look at that footwork. It's like watching a master class in evasion. Absolutely beautiful. Then bam, Arthur snaps a jab right at Michael's face. The big guy dodges, but you can see the shock in his eyes. Speed like that, lethal. Arthur's actually leading on points now. The atmosphere shifts. Michael narrows his eyes, warning him, this fight is just getting started. Arthur just grins. He's loving this. Don't hold back, Lord Michael. Show me why they call you the champion. Michael flashes a wicked smile. Fine then, my turn to shine. Boom, a massive hook swings toward Arthur's head. He ducks back, heart racing, while Michael calculates. He's playing the long game, waiting for Arthur to tire out. Then comes the storm. Punch after punch. Arthur's brain is working overtime. He needs a strategy and fast. Every time he scores, Michael just gets stronger. It's like a boss battle where losing is the only option. No time to think. Michael unleashes a relentless barrage, pinning Arthur against the ropes. Nowhere to run now. Michael starts boasting, thinking he's got it in the bag. But Arthur realizes something. Winning the match, impossible. Winning the quest, different story. He just needs to survive for 3 minutes to get that hidden item. Time to go on the offensive. Arthur pushes back, forcing the champ to retreat while the clock ticks down. Tick, tock. They're trading blows now, pure chaos. Then, crack, Michael lands a devastating uppercut right on Arthur's chin. That hit was heavy, like hospital trip heavy, but somehow, Arthur is still standing. Michael's impressed. Arthur's lasted longer than anyone. He goes in for the finishing blow, but wait, Arthur counters with a perfect strike of his own. Michael's actually starting to like this kid. Not bad, boy, not bad at all. "I'm not going down that easy," Arthur huffs. The bell rings. End of the line. Final score, 97-13. Michael takes the win. The crowd is stunned. Michael shakes Arthur's hand, calling boxing a true battle of souls and fists. And as a reward for that legendary performance, he hands over a gift. "It's an honor," Arthur says, accepting it. Boom, he just scored the 4th secret item, Soul Advantage, secret rank. It's got 3 perks. Flame Strike, Counter X, and one that's still under lock and key. Next thing we know, Arthur's standing in a vast, desolate wasteland. The desert of the Lost Kings, an S-rank dungeon in the 3rd province, completely ravaged by time. Here's the weird part, 0 monsters. Only the demon god himself lives here. But finding him, good luck. A 1% encounter rate. People spend years looking for this guy and find nothing. Arthur's not having it. "Stupid game, stupid systems," he mutters. He's not about to waste time wandering. So he comes up with a shortcut. If the monster won't find him, he'll bring the monster to him. He spots an ancient coffin in the sand and starts hauling it up. "Sorry for the wake-up call, pal," he whispers. He pries it open, and inside, a mummy glowing with eerie light. Arthur looks at the soul trapped inside. Should he let it go? Before he can even decide, the soul erupts in light and shoots off into the horizon. Instantly, his senses scream. A crushing aura slams into the area. The ground starts to buckle and shake. The earth splits open right at his feet. Out crawls the 3rd demon god, the Jackal of the Moors. He's finally shown his face. The Tomb of the Hollow Soul. Now the name makes sense. This is where spirits come to die. The Jackal's voice booms, accusing Arthur of desecrating the tomb. The system pings, level -150. Great. He's the guardian of the graves, the watcher of the fallen, the legendary Jackal. "You disturbed a soul, mortal. That's a death sentence." He's ready to collect. But Arthur, he doesn't even flinch. He just slips on his new gloves and flashes a cocky grin. It's on. The Jackal raises his scales, weighing Arthur's soul just like the ancient myths. 1 measurement to decide his entire fate. Body on one side, soul on the other. The body is heavier. The judgment is passed, and Arthur's soul snaps back into place. But there's a catch. Warning, all stats reduced by 30%. The Jackal laughs, calling him a fool for even trying. Arthur knew this was coming. It's the price you pay for messing with a soul. But he'd take that penalty any day if it meant spawning the boss faster. Now, it's time to kill a god before things get really ugly. Spears of dark energy. The beast hurls them one after another at Sir Julian, who starts dancing around the projectiles like it's just another day at the academy. One by one, leaping, weaving, and sliding through the chaos with practiced grace. Honestly, he's making it look easy. But then it hits him. His signature illusion magic is completely useless against a monster of this tier. All right, looks like we're doing this the hard way. A good old-fashioned brawl. Julian lunges for a punch, but the demon just slips away like smoke. The beast doubles down on those dark projectiles again. Julian dodges the barrage, winding up for a massive, heavy overhead strike. It's like a scene straight out of a legend. Julian throws a world-shattering punch, but the monster catches it dead-on with its scepter. Bad move. Instantly, the demon fires those dark spears again. This time, they're right in Julian's face at point-blank range. Julian barely rolls back in time. He's breathing hard now. That curse on his body is making him feel 10 times heavier than usual. No time to catch his breath, though. His communication crystal starts glowing. It's Lady Alara calling from the manor. His mind instantly goes to his mother, and he nearly loses his head to another dark spear. Talk about a close call. This call is a total disaster for his focus. Trying to fight for your life while worrying about family. It's a nightmare scenario. But he's a knight. He won't break. He needs to end this fast. The monster responds by summoning a swirling black vortex. The beast takes to the skies, cosmic energy spiraling around it like a dark, shimmering storm. But Julian's patience is gone. He taps into a new power and his fist erupts in golden, roaring flames. The demon actually looks terrified, like it recognizes that magic. The system chime rings out. This blazing vanguard skill doubles his strength, but it's literally burning through his life force every second. With a battle cry that shakes the ruins, Julian charges. Flame Fist activated. Here comes the heat. Boom! A devastating strike connects right with the monster's jaw, sending it tumbling back dozens of meters into the dirt. The boss staggers up, eyes burning with pure, unadulterated hatred. It sneers, calling Julian's ultimate move laughable. Sure, buddy. Julian's looking down from the high ground now, totally unfazed. Sounded pretty cool to me, he mocks. The monster starts spewing threats, preparing one final, terrifying spell. And for the first time, Julian actually starts to tremble. He recognizes the mana. A massive rift opens in the sky, and a colossal, spectral fist emerges, the meteor of the night. It hits him like a freight train. It's not just one impact, it feels like he's being struck from a dozen different angles all at once. Julian is blasted through the air, smashing through stone pillars and debris. This is the true power of the monster's invisible hand. He ends up buried in a pile of rubble, battered, bruised, and covered in the smoke of his own failing flames. He should have known. The monsters in this kingdom are way more dangerous than the ones in the old scrolls. Then that crystal glows again. Alara. The anxiety is eating him alive. He has to finish this and get home. Smarter than you look, the beast sneers, actually impressed that Julian predicted the trajectory of that last hit. Julian tries to offer a humble reply, but the beast isn't interested in talking anymore. It's already charging the next one. That flame ability is a double-edged sword. His strength is peaking, but his health, it's hitting rock bottom fast. He goes to strike again, but yep, you guessed it, another call from Alara. It's too much. Distracted and nearly hit, Julian makes a wild move. He teleports away mid-fight just to answer the damn phone. The boss is, well, completely stunned. The monster is standing there like an idiot, looking around for the knight who just vanished into thin air. Julian ducks behind some distant ruins, finally clicking the communication crystal to talk to Alara. "What's so urgent?" he asks, but his sister cuts him off immediately, her voice sharp with panic, demanding to know where he is. He tries to brush her off, saying he's busy, but her next words stop his heart. It's about their mother. She's sobbing now. "There's no time left, Julian." She's slipping away. He can't believe it. It can't be true. Panic fills his eyes as Alara cries out. Then, the air turns ice cold. "Don't you ever underestimate me," the beast growls, appearing right behind him. Damn it, he let his guard down, but there's no time for regrets now. He cuts the connection. "I'll be home soon, Alara, I promise." "You aren't going anywhere, sinner," the monster hisses, conjuring another massive meteor of the night. But Julian doesn't even blink. He dodges it effortlessly, his eyes cold as ice. He whispers an apology to the beast before winding up his final strike. Blazing vanguard, maximum power. This is the end. But then, silence. The monster catches the flaming fist with a single hand. "You fool," he laughs. "You really thought this was enough to kill me." Julian is frozen in shock, everything he had, and it didn't even leave a scratch. No time to think. Another meteor is screaming towards his head. He dodges by a hair, already reaching for his next desperate trick. Blazing Gauntlet might double his strike power, but it's time to bring out the big guns and activate a real trump card. Spirit Aegis Reflection, the ultimate, return to sender move. The dread jackal never saw it coming as a massive punch slams straight into his mangy snout. With a roar of defiance, the villain takes the full, brutal impact. His face literally twists in agony as he's sent flying like a discarded ragdoll. He's spinning, a total blur in the air, until, boom, he crashes headfirst into a jagged rock outcrop in the far distance. With his final, rattling breath, the demon coughs up blood everywhere, his life fading fast after smashing against that cold stone. A total path of destruction marks the end. That strike, doubled by Alistair's power and tripled by the monster's own sheer momentum. Absolutely lethal. He told him this was the end. The demon Lord Jackal, level 150, is officially history. Now our hero races back to the kingdom of 𝒊𝒅𝒏. His mother is out of time. Back in the familiar halls of the capital, a cleric, a knight, and young Elinor are all huddled around the dying noblewoman. Alistair kicks the door open, shouting for Elinor and demanding to know if his mother is still with them. Elinor welcomes him through her tears, but the royal physician delivers the blow. Lady Catherine is in her final stages. The plague is going to take her. It's a horrific sight. Dark, cursed spots are spreading across her body, claiming her bit by bit. Her mana is completely drained, her heart failing. She's drifting toward cardiac arrest. It's almost over. Not even the greatest sorcerers in the kingdom could save her now. They've all given up hope. Elinor is sobbing, calling for her mother, but Alistair grabs her hand. "Stop! Everything's going to be fine. I'm not letting her die today, no matter what." Everyone just stares. They think he's lost it. How can one man possibly fight the inevitable? Our hero dumps every single point into his intelligence stat. The system chimes, alchemy level 250 reached, God tier mastery unlocked. Using every rare material he scavenged from the ends of the earth, Alistair begins the final ritual to craft a miracle. The Celestial Panacea, SS rank rarity, a legendary brew that can wipe away any curse, disease, or negative effect in existence. Success, the elixir is finally ready. The physician is shaking, whispering that he thought this was just a myth from the ancient scrolls. Elinor is speechless. She looks at her brother like he's a miracle worker. Where on earth did he find something this powerful? Alistair is in a rush. "No time, I'll explain later, just trust me." He steps to the bedside, looking down at his mother's pale, lifeless face. She's so close to the edge, but with this level of alchemy, he can create the impossible. He made it just in time to save her life. He gently helps her drink the elixir, whispering for her to come back to them. "Please, mother, wake up." He holds her close as Elinor watches from the shadows. Slowly, her eyes open. She sees her children and wonders if she's finally recovered. Before she can even speak, Elinor screams her name and throws herself into her mother's arms, sobbing with pure joy. Alistair finally lets out a breath, a huge smile breaking across his face. Mission accomplished. She's healthy, truly healthy. He asks how she feels, while she's still trying to figure out how she's even alive. The memories are coming back in pieces. Last thing she knew, she was preparing for the end in that cold bed. Elinor huffs, yelling that they were all terrified and that it was Alistair who pulled off the miracle. She's still dazed. Waking up from a coma isn't easy. But when the doctor explains what that elixir actually was, she's absolutely stunned. How did her son get his hands on something worth more than the entire kingdom's treasury? Alistair tells her not to worry about it, that her being okay is all that matters. But then, she lets out a roar. "Don't you dare get ahead of yourselves." The siblings freeze, total confusion. They look at her, totally lost. Why is she suddenly this furious? She points a finger right at Alistair, screaming his name. How dare he vanish without a word? How dare he leave them all alone? Alistair tries to argue that he was saving her, but she's not having it. Not a single word. Mom mode is in full effect. Our legendary hero is now sulking in a corner, taking his lecture like a little kid. The doctor sneaks out while the shouting continues. Elinor tries to defend him, explaining that he became a knight errant just to find her cure. Alistair starts whining. He's happy she's alive, but man, that elixir worked a little too well. She's got way too much energy now. Finally, she cools down. She gets it. She knows why he did what he did. But the thought of him getting hurt, that's what scared her most. Alistair's heart melts. He did the right thing. She sighs. "Fine, you're safe. Now go out there and slay some more demons or whatever it is you do." Everyone's jaw just drops. Did she really just give him permission to go back out there? They can't believe it. The lady just looks at Alistair, totally bewildered, and asks him how long he'd been planning to head back out for more trouble. His mother looks at him with a soft smile, noting that his eyes are the spitting image of his father's. She can finally see that her son is truly, deeply happy. Arthur nods, confirming her feelings, and his mother gives him the green light to chase his destiny now that she's finally safe and sound. But wait, there are conditions. First, he has to send word of his travels. Second, he absolutely must not die, no matter what horrors he faces. Honestly, I'd probably promise that second one in a heartbeat too. Arthur doesn't hesitate, giving her his solemn word. Finally, his mother pulls him into a long, warm hug, whispering for him to be careful out there in the wild world. It's time. Arthur says his goodbyes, swearing to stay safe and promising his family that this isn't the end. He'll see them all again. Everyone watches him leave with hearts full of hope, while a stunning, golden landscape stretches out before us, making the weight of his journey feel real. Arthur muses that perhaps, if he can just wipe out every last shadow beast, peace might finally return to the kingdom of Britannia. But if that's not enough, if the darkness is deeper than he thought, then he's going to have to do something much bigger. Something beyond just slaying monsters, something hidden in the secrets of his past life. And then, we're taken to the grand arena of the Third Duchy, the Sovereign Colosseum. Our hero weaves through the massive, cheering crowd with a confident smirk, taking in the sheer scale of his surroundings. The announcer's voice booms, declaring the start of the 11th Great Tournament to find the world's strongest knight. The crowd goes absolutely wild. Arthur has to cover his ears from the roar, but he's loving the raw, high-stakes energy vibrating through the air. Here's the deal. To even enter this bloodbath, a warrior must be at least tier 150. If you're higher, they scale your power down to match, but your legendary gear, that stays exactly as it is. Arthur keeps moving through the sea of people, reflecting on his long road here and the massive prize waiting at the finish line. Suddenly, he stops. The other adventurers here, they're no joke. He spots a mysterious swordsman in a blue cloak with raven black hair. Then there's a silver-haired veteran knight, and a shadowy figure in the back with a hood completely masking their face. It hits him, these guys aren't here for the gold. They're after a legendary rank item, the sacred scroll of class ascension. But before he can analyze them further, boom, the event officially kicks off. They start measuring everyone's 𝒒𝒒 and strike levels to rank the participants, and only the elite top 8 will move to the main stage. Arthur steps up and places his right hand on a glowing rune circle, letting the magic scan his inner 𝒒𝒒. Finally, the results flash on the massive screen. Arthur's rank? Absolutely bottom tier. He's ranked 2,189 out of 2,189. He's not sweating it, though. His hidden class keeps his 𝒒𝒒 low, plus he hasn't even hit tier 150 yet. But next up is the attack power test. A heavy enchanted iron vault with a fist icon appears before every contestant. This is the new standard, the ultimate way to see who's actually packing the most devastating physical heat. Arthur's heart races as he prepares his trump card, the Flame Sovereign's Fist. This magic is going to double his output, easy. But he stacks it with his counter Strike X, amping his punch to a staggering 6 times its original power. The air literally vibrates, and everyone around him freezes in total shock. Wait, what the hell is that kid doing? One knight gasps. Before they can blink, the giant magic screen interrupts them all, ready to drop the official power rankings. Arthur takes first place, followed by Lord Ludlow, Lady Genevieve, and Sebastian. Arthur exhales. He was nervous about that first fail, but he's back in the game. Then the announcer speaks up again, adding that after balancing all the scores together. The rankings have shifted. Sir Galahad takes first, followed by Rosemary, Lord Palmer, Arthur in 4th, then Sebastian, Genevieve, Ludlow, and the veteran Ozishan. Arthur is perfectly happy with 4th, but the noble warriors around him look absolutely livid that a nobody is standing with them. You again, a sharp voice snaps. It's Lady Alara, looking beyond annoyed that Arthur is once again right in her space. Arthur snaps back, Hey, I'm just as confused as you are. Alara glares at him, demanding to know why he's always exactly where she is. Arthur just shrugs her off, but Alara starts thinking, that strange equipment, and that mysterious boy, who is he really? She's intrigued now. She really wants to dig into his secrets and find out what he's hiding. But Arthur ruins the tension immediately. "You after that ascension scroll too," Alara sighs. "Of course. Once you're this strong, that's the only thing that matters." It finally clicks for Arthur. Mira is just a fake name. She's actually Rosemary, the high-ranking noble in disguise. There's no more time for talk. The announcer's voice thunders across the stadium. The Tournament of Legends is finally about to begin. The match order is locked. 8 warriors remain, and the winner takes the kingdom's gold and that legendary scroll. Arthur realizes that if he wins his first round, he's facing Alara next. She doesn't even seem to care. "Good luck," she says with a cold, sulky pout before walking off. Arthur rolls his eyes. Her attitude is the worst, but he's got a fight to win. The bell tolls. The first fight is on, and his opponent looks seriously worried after seeing Arthur's insane power results. The crowd is absolutely ruthless, mocking our boy Godfrey and doubting his every move, but he just brushes it off, cool as ice. His next hurdle, Lord 𝒊𝒅𝒏𝒅𝒅𝒏, a high-ranking alchemist knight who's as arrogant as they come. Word in the stands is that Grendel leads the Order of the Silver, Wyvern, a powerhouse who forges his own legendary gear to guarantee a win. The consensus, Godfrey is toast, but then the herald shouts the words everyone's been waiting for, "Let the duel begin." As they step onto the sands, Godfrey just gives his opponent a blank, bored stare, clearly not feeling the pressure. Lord Grendel starts complaining about having to soil his hands with someone so mediocre, but before he can even finish his insult, bam, Godfrey vanishes. He reappears in a flash, driving a blazing gauntlet strike straight into Grendel's arrogant chin. And he doesn't stop there. It's a relentless flurry of strikes, left, right, center, until a final, crushing spinning kick sends the alchemist soaring through the air. Grendel hits the arena wall with the force of a falling star, shattering the stone into 1,000 jagged pieces. Just like that, the high-end mighty lord is broken, unable to even twitch, let alone stand back up. Silence hits the stadium like a physical weight before the crowd erupts in pure, unfiltered shock. How on earth did he do that? The herald calls it victory. Godfrey. Our hero just scratches his head, wondering if he accidentally went a little too hard on the poor guy. From the shadows, Lady Myra watches, her eyes fixed on Godfrey's mysterious new gear. But there's no time for questions. Round 2 is up. It's Myra versus Sir Alistair, and the toxic crowd starts jeering immediately, claiming the battlefield is no place for a woman. They're shouting for her to go back to her estate, using her noble status like an insult, while the air fills with bitterness. Watching from the sidelines, Godfrey is visibly annoyed. The sheer ignorance of these people is seriously killing his vibe. The herald ignores the noise and signals the start, pitting the veteran Baron Thorn against the mysterious lady. The old Baron starts throwing out creepy, sarcastic compliments, acting like a total pervert and promising to go easy if she lets him get close. Big mistake. Before the creep can finish his sentence, Myra snaps her fingers and summons 2 massive elementals, Ignis and Undine. One breath of uncontrolled, searing heat later, and it's over. The arena echoes with the screams of the terrified audience as they watch the Baron fall. The winner, Lady Myra of Alstead, without breaking a sweat. Even Godfrey is caught off guard, impressed by just how fast she ended that pathetic display. As the dust settles on the opening rounds, the herald steps forward to announce the semifinal pairings that will decide the kingdom's fate. It's official. Godfrey of Vane versus Myra of Alstead, and Lord Lucius versus the formidable Sir Julian de Samer. Godfrey narrows his eyes at Julian, sensing a darkness and a power that far outweighs the other knights in this tournament. He notes that Julian might be even more dangerous than Myra herself, but the narrator cuts the tension. It's time for the main event. Godfrey and Myra, face to face. The tension is thick enough to cut with a sword. Myra taunts him, telling him there's still time to run, but Godfrey just smirks. This is the perfect chance to see who's actually the better hunter. The fight explodes into life as Myra immediately brings out her heavy hitters, starting with the fire elemental, Ignis. Godfrey drops into a low defensive stance, ready for the impact, while the fickle crowd, who hated her moments ago, is now chanting Myra's name. Godfrey knows the stakes. Dealing with one elemental is a nightmare, but Myra, she's on a completely different level of crazy. Then she doubles down, summoning two more, a lightning tempest dragon and a water nymph of the deep. 3 simultaneous summons. Godfrey remembers seeing this before, and he knows he's officially stepped into a world of hurt. The narrator is losing his mind. Nobody has ever seen magic of this scale, screaming for Myra to finish the job once and for all. Myra warns him that she knows what he can do, so she's playing for keeps. Godfrey just thanks her for the honor and shifts to his offensive form. The water dragon strikes first, a massive wave of crushing force aimed right at his head. Godfrey moves to counter, but the attack vanishes into thin air. A feint. He twists his body just in time to dodge the real strike. She was setting him up for a blindside, and now she follows up with her second move, the lightning tempest. The electric dragon coils, eyes locked on Godfrey, who watches its every twitch with razor-sharp focus. The sheer speed of her summoning is terrifying, and Godfrey barely leaps clear as a bolt of energy obliterates a third of the stone arena. He takes a breath, realizing just how lucky he is to still have all his limbs attached. One direct hit and he'd be a memory, but there's no breathing room. Myra launches her third attack, a massive flame bomb. This time, Godfrey meets it head-on, his blazing gauntlet clashing with her magic and deflecting the explosion in a shower of sparks. Myra looks stunned for a heartbeat, but that surprise quickly turns into cold, calculating fury, making Godfrey's stomach do a flip. It honestly feels like she's trying to end his life right here. She's strange, she's unpredictable, and holy hell, she is insanely strong. Lady Myra smirks, thinking she might have given the common knight a bit too much credit. But Sir Julian snaps right back. He tells her she's nothing but a puppet master who hides behind orders, and honestly, he's the one who overestimated her. That hits a nerve. Myra's eyes flash with rage as she vows to put this upstart knight in his place once and for all. The arena goes absolutely wild. The bloodthirsty crowd is screaming, demanding the noblewoman finish him off right now. Suddenly, everyone's reaching for their coin purses. They're betting everything on Myra's victory, and yeah, Julian is starting to get a little annoyed by the total lack of respect. He mutters about how loud and irritating they are, trying his best to block out the noise and focus. Myra is thinking the same thing. She'd heard the people in this kingdom were rough, but this level of annoyance, it's unreal. She shoots Julian a mocking grin. He just glares back, totally unimpressed. But there's no time for talk. She commands her Drake, Cinder, to end this quickly. The beast lunges head-on. Then boom, a massive thunder strike comes crashing down from the clouds. A colossal lightning bolt tears through the sky, and Julian barely dives out of the way at the last possible second. But it was a trap. He lands right in front of 𝑭𝒊𝒅𝒅𝒏, the water elemental, and she's already got another strike locked and loaded. Julian keeps his cool. 3 magical summons against one man, tough odds, but he just needs to stay calm and wait for one opening, just one. He starts sprinting, leading the 2 elementals on a chase. He glances at Myra, begrudgingly admitting that despite being a pain, she's actually pretty damn strong. Myra just watches him from a distance, looking perfectly confident while her fire guardian, 𝒔𝒐𝒐, stands behind her like a stone wall. She's smart. She studied Julian's moves and knows 𝒔𝒐𝒐 can block anything he throws her way. With 2 elementals hunting him down and 0 room to breathe, Julian is in a serious bind. Enough, Julian's patience snaps. He decides to go all out and uses a quick-step blink to completely lose his pursuers. Myra is stunned. She didn't know he had that kind of speed. Before she can react, Julian is right beside her, fist already wreathed in flames. It's a high-speed punch, a direct shot aimed straight at the noblewoman's face. She notices the attack at the very last microsecond. Julian thinks he's got her. He's already celebrating. But then, she vanishes, just like she did when she fought that royal swordsman. "Water blade," she shouts, and suddenly the water elemental is charging him again with terrifying speed. Julian is floored. That wasn't Myra. It was a damn illusion that morphed right into a new elemental attack. The impact is brutal, a crushing blow that lands directly on Julian with pure force. Silence hits the arena, just thick clouds of steam. The crowd can't even process what they just saw. Myra figures it's over. No one survives that. But then the steam clears, and she's caught totally off guard because Julian is still standing. A massive gust of wind sweeps the dirt, revealing the night through the haze. Julian is gasping for air. "Too close," he mutters. If he hadn't blinked at the last second, he'd be a dead man. Myra is losing it. She can't understand how he managed to dodge. Julian, on the other hand, is just getting started. He's actually enjoying this now. He charges, flaming fist ready again, heading straight for her like a runaway carriage. Myra is baffled. How does he have this much energy left? Without wasting a beat, she orders Ignis to shield her. Julian swings for the elemental, who's waiting there, ready to tank the hit. Their eyes lock, then crack. Fists collide, the two forces completely canceling each other out. Myra is laughing now, calling it useless. She thinks she can just nullify his strength forever. But Julian, he saw this coming. He doesn't stop. He unleashes a barrage of blows on Ignis, one after another. Myra keeps screaming that it won't work. She's convinced the powers will just keep canceling out. Honestly, she's just shouting at the wind at this point. Suddenly, Julian rips off his heavy gauntlets. Myra freezes. She knows something big is coming. Drawing his sword, the knight shifts his strategy. A new weapon, a blade coated in deadly venom. This is something she can't just neutralize. He rushes her again, faster than before, and then the blade shifts. It transforms into a swarm of metallic, serpentine lashes. The chains wrap around her, locking her tight. "Hunter's leg cannon," he yells. Myra grits her teeth in pure frustration. She's lost her connection to her summons. It's over. With a snap of his fingers and a final shout, the world goes dark for the noblewoman. Julian checks his sword. The blade is cracked, practically at its breaking point. But it doesn't matter. Myra can't continue. Julian wins. He sheathes the broken steel and catches her in his arms before she hits the hard ground. She slowly wakes up as the crowd groans in disappointment. They all lost their bets. But Julian and Myra, they just look at each other, accepting the final result of the duel. To finish the encounter, Alaric hands the girl a vial of his finest healing tonic. He turns his back and walks away without a second thought. But Lady Mary, she's finally realized Alaric is a force to be reckoned with, and a magical prompt reveals she's completely obsessed with his legendary gear. The noblewoman is becoming absolutely hooked on the boy's mysterious talents. Admitting she can't even hide her excitement as the herald bellows for the next clash to begin. It is Lord Reginald against the formidable Sir Julian Devane. Both champions take their place on the scorched earth of the arena. The monk boasts that this duel will be over in a heartbeat, but Julian, he isn't even flinching. Alaric feels a suffocating pressure radiating from the stage as both fighters lock eyes. Then, it's over. The fight ends before anyone can even process what just happened. The victor, Sir Julian, the Grandmaster of the Blade. He shoots a chilling, sideways glance toward our hero. Their eyes meet for a brief, tense moment. Alaric is genuinely terrified that he has to face this monster in the final showdown, and the narrator confirms, yes, this is his bloody fate. Lord Alaric on one side, Sir Julian on the other. The championship round is finally here. Both warriors take a slow, deliberate step forward. Mary sneers, telling Alaric to try not to die in the dirt, but he just tells her to mind her own business. They stare each other down. A heavy silence echoes through the entire kingdom. With everyone on the edge of their seats, the bell rings. The round begins. Julian drops his iconic line, "Everything ends in a heartbeat." Alaric thinks he looks cool posing like that, but honestly, the guy is overestimating himself way too much. Their power levels are likely in the same league. So Alaric knows he has to end this fast. Third ability, the Crown of Valor. A magical window pops up. He's got exactly 3 minutes. Every single one of his stats just doubled. To unlock this beast mode, he simply had to burn through his first and second abilities first. His power is surging like a tidal wave, but it's a massive gamble. If Julian isn't defeated within 180 seconds, all those bonuses are gone for good. Suddenly, a dark purple aura erupts around Julian. He's finished playing games. He's not wasting another second on this fight. Julian blurs toward the boy, swinging his steel in a lethal lateral arc aimed straight for the neck. Alaric barely ducks, scrambling backward to save his skin. The pressure doesn't let up. Julian is relentless, raining down strike after bone-crushing strike. Alaric realizes he's in deep trouble. His opponent's technique is a nightmare to deal with, and the man himself, he's on a completely different level. He can't wrap his head around why this knight wants the Scroll of Ascension so badly. That relic would grant anyone godlike stats and mastery. Our hero is fighting for his life just to keep up, but Julian, he looks like he's taking a casual stroll, completely unfazed by the pressure. With a lightning-fast horizontal slash from Julian, Alaric leaps over the steel, landing right behind him. He lunges forward with a flurry of attacks, but he's just swinging at air. He missed. Julian evades the entire assault with terrifyingly little effort. He's moving so fast he's leaving afterimages in the dust. The knight scoffs, asking if that's the best his opponent has to offer. He calls him as slow as a common fly. Alaric meets the insult with silence, but inside, he's sweating bullets. Round 1 is done. Round 2 starts now, and Alaric's power surges even higher. Julian senses the shift immediately as Alaric charges him like a cannonball. He's certain there's no way the knight can stay this calm now. But Julian just shrugs it off, calling him slow even with the speed boost. Alaric tries to land a counterstrike, but he fails miserably. The knight saw it coming a mile away. "Naive," he whispers. Boom, a massive shockwave of energy rips through the entire arena. Next thing we see is Alaric being thrown across the dirt, screaming in pain. Even Mary looks genuinely shocked by this outcome. Struggling to crawl up from the ground, Alaric admits he didn't expect Julian to be this bloody strong. But incredibly, before he can even catch his breath, Julian triggers a new master-level skill, Radiant Flash. His blade begins to glow with a blinding light, surrounded by crackling blue lightning. He fires a beam of pure destruction that levels the edge of the arena in a massive explosion. But wait, our boy escapes by the skin of his teeth using teleportation, reappearing back in the center of the ring. That was the ultimate technique, the hardest move for any master of the blade to ever conquer. Alaric is genuinely terrified now, wondering what else is coming for him. The crowd is losing their minds over the spectacle, while Mary watches intensely, curious to see how our hero survives this mess. They stare each other down. Round 2 ends. Round 3 begins, and Alaric gets even stronger. This is the final showdown. Alaric takes a deep breath, preparing for war. It's now or never. He activates his fists of eternal flame. Our hero shows off his roaring, flaming fists to his rival. But Julian, he just tightens his grip, completely unfazed. Arthur senses the shift in the air. The pressure is rising, but he doesn't flinch. He's cool, collected, and ready for whatever comes next. Myra shouts that this next clash ends it all. Both warriors sprint, a head-on collision that shakes the arena. Julian throws a heavy side fist, then a crushing overhead blow, screaming temporal flare. But Arthur blurs. A perfect dodge. He's already behind him. Julian swings again, desperate, but Arthur just sidesteps. This isn't just a fight anymore, it's a high-stakes dance of death. Absolute focus. Then Arthur pulls a fast one. He summons his blade right in the middle of a clinch. Julian's eyes go wide. No hesitation. Arthur triggers his secret art, alchemy of the blade. The sword shatters into floating stones, encircling Julian, who realizes too late, these aren't just rocks. They're coated in deadly poison. But that was just the bait. Julian's distracted by the venom, leaving his guard wide open for the real finishing move. Boom, Arthur lands a flaming gut punch right in the solar plexus. The impact is massive and absolutely effective. "It's over," Arthur says, cold as ice. Julian starts to panic, swinging wildly like a cornered animal. Arthur vanishes, just gone. Then he reappears right above his head. He was saving one last trump card for this exact moment. Condition met, Dragon Lord's Gale. Fighting a Master Knight has its perks. Julian looks up, seeing Arthur wreathed in a literal hurricane. And then, a colossal great worm manifests, looming over the arena with terrifying power. Julian tries to run, but he's too slow. The strike hits him like a freight train, sending him flying across the stadium and headfirst into the stone walls. Total destruction. A trail of rubble follows him to the edge of the arena where he lies motionless. The Sentinel of Samaria is officially out cold. Winner, Arthur of House Vane. Our hero breathes a sigh of relief. One more minute and his gear would have literally crumbled to dust. In the shadows, Myra watches the whole thing. She doesn't say a word, just turns and walks away. She needs more power, and she knows it. Meanwhile, Arthur is crowned the champion of the realm, taking home all the glory and the grand prize. The prize, a scroll from the forbidden vault of Raven's Peak, S-rank loot. Arthur finally has it in his hands. He takes it, but he isn't doing what the system, or anyone else, expects. The prompt for evolution pops up, but Arthur hits decline. No hesitation. He has a much better idea for this item. Instead of consuming it, he hits equip. The system asks if he's sure. Oh, he's definitely sure. The scroll erupts in golden light. A hidden command from the ancient ruins finally triggers. The air warps. The space around the scroll distorts like a glitch in reality, right in front of his eyes. It transforms. The necklace of memories. That's the fifth secret artifact now in his possession. He stops for a second, thinking about the long road, the scars, and every victory that led him here. Next stop, the Golden Isles. He turns and steps toward the grand teleportation gate. He climbs the steps, knowing this new land is different, high stakes, but the loot, way better than anything he's seen. No more waiting. He triggers the jump, and a blinding white light consumes his vision. Welcome to the Golden Isles. It's a sun-drenched paradise, bustling with life and, well, let's just say the scenery is very distracting. Beautiful ladies, athletic knights. It looks like a royal holiday resort. Arthur isn't fooled. Dangerous place, he mutters. It looks like heaven, a place where a tired warrior could just give up and rest forever. And that's the trap. Lose yourself in pleasure, and you might never come back to the real world. Hey, traveler, someone's calling him. It's a short kid with wolf ears and messy gray hair standing right in his path. A sea stalker. Arthur knows the species. This one's name is Pip, apparently a guide sent by the local resort. Pip offers the grand tour, smiling all the while. But the system window tells a different story. Occupation, thief and cut purse. What's the name, pal? Pip asks. Arthur keeps it simple. Arthur. I don't need a guide, Arthur says. But the wolf boy is persistent, grabbing Arthur's arm and dragging him along anyway. Arthur tries to shake him off. He's got a schedule to keep and no time for these games. Pip pouts, suddenly bored with the whole thing. Fine, suit yourself, Grumpy. Good luck on your own. He gives Arthur a friendly pat on the shoulder, waves goodbye, and disappears into the crowd. Arthur watches him go, thinking it was weird but harmless, and decides to just keep walking. But wait, professional habit. He decides to take one last check on the condition of his equipment. His heart sinks, something's missing, his enchanted gauntlets, gone. It takes exactly 5 seconds to click. That little brat wasn't a guide. He was a master pickpocket. The ancient scrolls gave him a fair warning, but did he listen? Nope. That rogue, the Silver Wolf, just saunters off, celebrating his latest heist. He's even whistling a tune, absolutely thrilled with the enchanted steel he just snatched. And get this, he's already bragging about selling it for a mountain of gold. That's where we stop for today. If you want to see if the knights catch him, ring that bell and join the next adventure. Only on Tabs.